Hey everybody, Ken Plume here with another edition of Just a Few Things. This is the show where I have a very special guest on and we discuss six objects or so from their collections that are very much cherished and some of the items that mean the most to them. And we discuss why and other things and just have a general chat. And today, my very special guest is an old friend. We'll get into time periods. We'll quantify that. uh, uh, Performer, writer, I'm going to say Renaissance man. You have a
Yeah,
lot of
that's
different
never
interests.
overused. Yeah, and it's always applicable.
Yeah, well, but you know what? Maybe we shouldn't look into the Renaissance so much.
Just
Maybe it's
because
not
of
as
the way I
applicable.
dress, it's like, the
You
pantaloons and
love your pantaloons. You love them so much. Trace Beaulieu, thank you for being on the show. That sounds so manufactured. I talk to you all the time. This is
yeah.
not an infrequent thing.
Well, I like that even when we have a casual phone call, they go, Trace Beaulieu, thank you for being on the phone call with me today.
I want to make sure that everyone I talk to has a formal welcome. I want to make sure
I,
that they
I
know that we're having a conversation about
I
things.
appreciate that. And I will be making odd non-eye contact because I don't know where to look. Nobody knows on these things where to look anymore.
No, no, and everything
And we all just look
is
at ourselves.
everything is slightly askew anyway. So it's the world in general. I'm gonna have there's a spoiler for the end of the show and the end of all of our conversations. When we do have phone calls, I do ask you what you want to plug at the end. So have that ready.
Ah,
It's super weird though when we're just talking and you're just at the hardware store and like, is there anything you'd like to plug before we go? It's usually a hammer. It's always a hammer.
hey, I shop where Governor Walz and soon to be Vice President shops at
Is it
Menards.
Menards?
hmm Now that's world famous now, and it's really just a regional.
It's,
Uh,
what now? How many states is Menards in? I would assume is it just
mm,
Minnesota and Wisconsin?
Minnesota, Wisconsin. I don't know about the Dakotas. I know it's in Illinois and
Michigan?
Indiana.
Has it gone over the lake? Does it make
It
it that
could be
far?
it could be in Michigan. I don't drive that far. There's one about 20 minutes away, so it's like I could go to Michigan and get some plywood, but nah.
Menards is like McDonald's, right? It's like one every 5 minutes.
There's almost one in every community in Minnesota, anyway.
But there's still
Um,
like a the equivalent would be like an Ace Hardware, right? That's sort of
well, kind of like a Home Depot,
so it's
kind of like a
large. It's a
Lowe's.
massive
Yeah, it's a
place.
big box store, but it's got groceries. It's got electronics and
It, it's
housewares and
it's got groceries. So it's like an old school department store. It's like a Sears and Roebuck traditionally what a
yeah,
Sears and Roebuck used to
maybe
be.
a lot of lumber, a lot of garden stuff. That's where you'd go to get plywood and lumber and
So it's the
a
kind of place
shed
that
if you
exists
need
for
one.
a community to maybe the snow keeps you from traveling too far and you need a one-stop shop for
Yeah,
everything.
yeah. We also have Fleet Farms. I don't know if you have those, which it's basically the man mall. Everything from hunting and fishing to plumbing and candy. They have a huge candy section for some reason. Giant bags of like bridge mix and other weird
Oh, so it's all
candies.
just no name brand candy.
No, a
It's
lot of name brand stuff. Um,
but also like pick a
that's where you
mix.
go. You'd want to go to Fleet Farm right before Christmas to try to find mismatched boots and gloves because they're just all over the place, just scattered.
It's all
And I'll be
style
appearing at
choices.
Menards probably tomorrow morning.
Is that where the Mads are back? Is that where it's transitioning to?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
going back to traditional venues, but
Well,
hardware store venues.
yep, in the grocery department, we will be grilling bacon, sizzling, stinky bacon.
Sample and a riff.
Yeah, got to buy
I
bacon before Frank's funny.
I think it's a new model that people should explore more fully. Also, Frankfurters.
Frankfurters. There you go. It's $1 million idea. You throw it away. It's
We
just
can't
like,
see TV's
oh,
Frankfurters because that's owned by somebody else.
or son of TV's Frankfurters. Sons of
Cousin,
TV's
cousin of TV's Frankfurters.
close relation.
Well,
It's his birthday today too. We would say hi, but this won't be out on his birthday.
it'll be close enough that everyone should reach out to Frank Conniff and wish him a very happy birthday. It's easy to remember when it was because we got to celebrate it at Dragon Con
Oh,
when you
that's
all would
right.
come.
We would be at Dragon Con tonight. We would be gathered around the big table in
Trader
what
Vic's before
Trader Vic's. Yeah, almost said Benihana, but
before
that's
the onslaught.
uh, that's
Did you
right.
do the one year when we went to Benihana? The only year we did a Benihana dinner?
Mm-mm. No, no, I've been to Benihana's and I've learned never to go back.
That was when we the year we went. Doc Hammer went. Doc Hammer being very very vegan
Oh,
and
right.
trying to explain to the person cooking what veganism meant as far as keeping the meat away. Made even more awkward when the person tried putting the shrimp on Doc's plate and just could not
Yeah,
understand the
it's not
no.
beef.
It's yeah. It's like turkey's vegetarian too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't eat pork or shellfish, and people are always going, just have a little. It's like, okay,
Yeah, but you used to eat shellfish, and you gave
I
it up
use for
im-
allergies.
immuno reasons,
Right. Yeah. No, I think I just built up so much of it in my system, and I've heard that people later in life develop an allergy to shellfish.
just it got
Uh,
to that tipping point to where
yeah, you're just full of mercury and or
your body's
whatever.
like, do you need the
Yeah.
shrimp cocktail? Do you need to do
It's
that?
it's delicious stuff, but all of that stuff is a filter, for whatever's on the bottom of the ocean,
I
and
I can never get over
except for
texture
pork.
issues
Pork aren't
with
like
with
so much good
shrimp or
swimmers.
crab or lobster. It's just there's a rubberiness to it that I could never get over.
Well, there's an insect quality that people like to ignore. Like
Yeah, well, they
shrimp
are.
are insects.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, I could it's fine. I kudos and more power to you to anyone who enjoys all that. Just not my thing.
Yeah.
There are other
I
things.
ate oysters for years and years before I realized these are terrible. You don't taste them. It's like,
Well, it's all the butter, right? Aren't you just disguising the taste of them?
yeah, with cocktail sauce with shelled oysters and
Now oysters you don't chew, right? Like it's not like a chewing experience. Isn't it basically
yeah,
get it down your
just
throat as quickly as possible?
yeah. It's like, who convinced people to do this? Is there a nutritional value that we're lacking that only the oyster provides?
I
That
mean, listen, if this is your source of food and you this is you
if I'm
need
a
some kind of
whale,
nourishment, but then
yeah, or a
certainly
dolphin.
please save your choices for the surprise coming up.
Yes, I have a dolphin that I'll be sharing.
for those, I should give a more formal introduction for those unfamiliar with all the work that Trace has done. Mads are back, Freaks and Geeks, West Wing,
Yes.
and a little show called I believe it was Mystery Science Theater 3000, right?
Mystery Science Theater 3000. We made that back. That was like a different century that we made that show.
Does it now feel like it's approaching 40 years?
Uh, no, it doesn't. It doesn't really, it doesn't feel that long ago. But then, we were talking the other day on the phone and you had to remind me that 30 years ago is actually 30 years ago, 3 decades.
It doesn't
Um,
feel that I've known you nearly 30 years.
was it the book signing in New York? Is that,
No, oh well, we talked prior to that, and we did some interviews prior to that because you were promoting before the book and the movie came out. You were promoting season 7,
hmm,
so
the,
there were
the,
some interviews. I
yeah,
was at the Washington Square News, the NYU paper, and had reached out. But we had also connected via the again, we're talking. This is ancient history. The AOL, the America Online forums,
that's right. I
as
forgot about
well.
those.
When you were all on there, you all were posting. Now internet phobic folk that don't
Yeah.
post online anymore were all over those forums.
Yeah, those, and we would do interviews over that, and it was just typing. It was like the silliest kind of way to convey information
Now, was this
in
in
my mind.
between when Mike would set up a LAN setup for you all to play Doom in the office?
That was always set up. But that was just a constant. Uh, you could just sit down at someone's computer and start playing Doom. It was always on. Not a distraction at all from actual work. But yeah, that
Was
was.
that the last time you played video games?
Oh no, no, no. I haven't played them recently because my Xbox 360 isn't working anymore. So I bought a. Here's the for kids. This is what it used to look like. And look, it's a cord.
What would you play on the Xbox?
What have I played? Doom and a lot of the Star Wars, the earlier Star Wars, like Battlefront. And there was it Rogue Squadron? Rogue Squad?
So a lot
That
of
was a
flying
great game.
games.
Yeah. What else? Borderlands. I liked that game a lot. Um,
So really, we need to get you on one of our Fortnite squads
I
to just be
Does
ridiculous
it
in
last
that.
that long? Or is that the name? Grandpa pretends not to know. Yeah, I'll play. What do I have here? Well, here's a stack of video games. These aren't favorites. This we haven't started that yet.
No, we have not started the show yet.
Okay,
We,
so
this
let's
is just the
see.
preamble to the show.
L.A. Noir just happens to be on the top of my stack. I can't play this game. It's really cool and looks great, but I drive the car into buildings all the time. Just like
We all find our own play styles.
Red Dead Redemption. I killed so many horses just riding off cliffs. It's like I could only like turn in larger and larger circles. Batman Arkham, friend recommended this, and I haven't played it yet. Well, no, actually, no, I lied. I did play it, but I, I fly him into buildings, and the game ends very quickly.
Somebody tells me the stealth mode doesn't go too well with you.
Yeah. I just want to run around and kill things. That's why Borderlands.
So again, Fortnite seems like it's probably
Yeah.
the best for you.
Uh, Now, Fortnite, is that like running around shooting things?
Yeah, yeah. You're
Yeah,
you're
I
you're
do
either
that.
solo or with a group of friends, and basically it's just a means to catch up for the day, vent, and just
Oh,
trade insults.
Republic Command. That's what it was.
Or Republic Commando,
Yeah.
right?
Star.
That's the Clone Wars
I
era
can't
game,
make it focus. There we go.
a classic.
Yeah, I liked that game a lot. And Battlefront, at least the first one I played. The second one, kind of not as good. And then, oh, Forza, what was it? Force Unleashed?
Force Unleashed.
Oh, God, what a horrible game. I was looking forward to that so much. And we saw some of it in development at ILM, but it wasn't a great game. You kept, getting into those battles with Vader, and you were kind of like locked into whatever, button mashing thing you had
Yeah,
to do.
well, but for me, it always comes down to button mashing. I'm not a great skilled player. I rely
That's why I
on
like
chance.
Borderlands, because you can get different guns and you can snipe, or you can, machine gun or whatever. And it doesn't, I think there's a story, but I don't follow it.
Who needs lore? You just need entertainment.
Yeah, well, talk to the people who made the movie. I guess that didn't, which I'll still watch.
Of
I'm
course you
curious,
will.
but
You will
of
probably
course.
love the design work in it.
I liked the artwork in that game. I don't know if it carries over into the movie or not.
Now, did you watch Fallout? Because that seems right
I
up
did.
your alley.
I did. I liked Fallout. That was one game here that I was going to look at again. Where is this? He just keeps showing the same cassette over and over. I don't think he understands how it works. I played this one, Fallout Vegas. Why won't it focus? There we go. Anyway, people know what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did. I like that series too.
which ended
Um,
with a setup essentially because Kyle MacLachlan's character showed up
Yeah,
in that New
Yeah.
Vegas. So
I'll watch more of it.
all connected. Everything's connected.
Everything, always, everything's connected.
So what is your because we've never really had this discussion before. What's sort of your connection to collecting? Do you remember the first thing that you acquired and cherished as a kid?
Why, that's a great segue because I do. have like Star Trek. Are you a Star Trek or a Star Wars more of a
I'm both.
Star?
I mean,
Yeah.
if I push came to shove, I probably would go Star Wars
Hmm.
because I think Star Wars from my generation was the easier entry point
Hmm.
to that, to sort of science fiction and fantasy.
Which movie was your first? Which Star Wars movie?
I mean, I have memories of Empire,
Hmm.
uh, but the one that really had the emotional impact was Return of the Jedi, as far as being old enough to see it in the theater, remember it in the theater, and process it, and have an anticipation and excitement about it, and then sort of spin out of that, and have lifelong trauma from it as well. I've told
Yeah.
this story for years of as a child having trauma at the scene that when Jabba wakes up and is revealed behind the curtain, pulls aside when Leia has unfrozen Han. And from that point on, I would ever going to the bathroom would pull the shower curtain aside to make sure that Jabba was not behind there. So
And it's just Jason, so it's okay.
yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah,
Or
that
Tony
or Norman,
Perkins.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But Jabba, if Jabba was there, that's an issue. I don't need that. So
I always wanted to make a shower curtain with thermographic ink so that when you got in the shower, it was just a blank curtain. But then as the water heated up, you'd see the killer
Shadow,
silhouette. Yeah. Someone do that. Someone make that.
yeah,
I know
because
they've got the shower curtain, but it's already got the person printed.
I mean, Universal's Halloween Horror Night. There's a merchandise bonanza awaiting them if they take you up on that.
I know they're certainly not really protective of the classic monsters imagery. There's some dodgy. I was going to put that on my list, my Frankenstein collection, but I'm sort of I haven't collected any Frankensteins in a while.
Now,
I
why
just
do
don't
you
like the
think that
sculpts.
is? Does,
Bad sculpting.
now, which is your go-to Frankenstein iteration? Because even if you say
Um,
Karloff, there's iterations within Karloff
right,
that
right.
you could
The one
choose.
that came packaged, and I can't. I wonder where it is. The one it came packaged in the DVD classics. You got the Wolfman, you got Dracula, and you got Frankenstein as busts. Um, I think that was a pretty good
Oh, so the
sculpt.
the
Oh, there it is.
pack-ins with the DVDs, those collector's editions?
Yeah, yeah. This one. Of course, it won't focus again. Why won't you focus? That one.
So now
You
I'm
know,
curious because there's three companies that could have done that right off the bat that I can think of would be Weta, Sideshow, or Gentle Giant. Were any of those?
Sideshow is correct. Sideshow.
I'm just that good.
Yeah, it's a great sculpt. I don't know if you can get a bead on that. My cameraman is,
There we go. Oh, perfect.
yeah.
So now,
See,
what for you are the elements that make it the perfect representation, or as close to your preferred
um,
representation?
that it looks authentic to Karloff. That it looks, that it's a good sculpture. Well, okay, never mind,
I
people.
think you need to cover your face, and then it'll.
In shame.
Yes.
The other good one, if you can hold on one moment, I'm. This might require crashing and banging of this one, the 12-inch. The 12-inch. I don't know who made this one, but it was articulated. Focus.
Yep. There we go. There we go.
Okay, that one. He's
So
articulated. I have him in a sports shirt and taking photos.
So you have dressed him in this
I,
fashion.
I have. Yes, I should call that out. That yes, there was a GI Joe, which this is the same size as the 12-inch GI Joes that we all grew up with, or my generation grew up with.
So there's clothing readily available in that scale for it.
Yes, yeah, I found on a blister pack a combat photographer, and basically all the combat photographer wears is a short sleeve shirt, and he carries a shit ton of cameras. So there's another little camera, and but I thought that was a great sculpt too. If we can,
But he's just enjoying himself.
yeah, he's just chilling. Anyway,
It'll focus if you cover your face. It's trying to focus. There you go. We found look that see? That's the secret.
yeah, there you
Perfect.
go. So this was a great one. I also have I can't get it because it's in a casket actually. A puppet that Hollywood, I think it was called Hollywood Puppets, sculpted, and it's a really great articulate. I think it's on my Facebook page as my profile picture. Um,
Do you
but
recall what the first Frankenstein was that you ever got? Was it a model kit or was it
my brother had the Aurora model kit, which I just loved, and he was really skilled at building stuff. The first Frankenstein wasn't Frankenstein. It was. I just happened to have everything at arm's reach. Herman Munster, the Munster hand puppet. That it had a little voice box, and you'd pull the ring, and it would say different stuff. That I guess that's my first Frankenstein. But
now,
for
as
some
far as
reason,
hand puppet, was it just a hard rubber head, that sort of hand puppet? So
yeah,
you're basically just puppeteering
yeah.
the arms.
Basically, and for some reason, I had this thing as a kid. I would cut the hands off everything. So, but I'd save them. So he needs to have his arms sewn back
So
on.
so let's go into that. So why were you cutting the hands off?
Because hands are cool.
Fair enough.
I liked them, and I went, oh well, I'm not going to keep the puppet because that's dumb, but I'll keep his hands because the hands are cool. I've got Ratfink hands from the model kit. The Ratfink Don Roth or Ed Roth puppet, or not puppet. Not everything's a puppet. My Major Matt Mason, I cut his hands off again. I don't know why, because his gloves were cool. I thought I would. No, it's
So the hands off that. I'm assuming the hands came off the Hugo. Did you have a Hugo?
I didn't. I wanted a Hugo, but I didn't have a Hugo.
For anyone who's not familiar, can you describe what Hugo was?
Hugo was a little hand puppet. He was bald and he was just kind of a blank face, but he was master of disguise, and you could stick different like wigs or mustaches and stuff on him.
The
In
best.
Pee Wee Herman's HBO special, I think he has one of those. He used to do like a hypnosis thing with the Hugo puppet.
It was a golden age of hand puppets
It was. It was.
and ventriloquists dummies or vents as
We had the
Stressful.
Jerry Mahoney, which was Paul Winchell, wasn't it? Wasn't that?
yes, that was Paul Winchell. Paul Winchell
Yeah.
for the original voice of Tigger
Yes.
in the
Scrubbing Bubbles.
Disney cartoons.
Also invented a heart valve or an artificial heart or something amazing like that.
And his daughter is still a voice actor, April.
Oh,
Winchell.
really? You have you spoken with her?
I have not.
That might be a good call.
They're all good. You know what? I already reached the mountain. I was able to interview June Foray
Oh,
years ago. So
excellent. Classic.
I've Rocky the Flying Squirrel under my belt. It's an odd statement. Probably should have thought about it a little bit more before I said it.
You get the power of editing.
There is
but
no
you asked-
editing. You know there's no editing.
Screw the entire industry.
Yeah.
But you were asking about like we got off track onto Frankenstein's, and I
So of your
forget
introduction to collecting, the first thing you can remember that was a thing that was
collecting was Star Trek. I got the model kit. I guess it was AMT, the first time they released the Enterprise. And in that box was also I built a few of them, and in one of the boxes was an address where you could send away for Star Trek memorabilia. And this is like still when the show is on the air, the original Star Trek TOS. Um, so I wrote away to Lincoln Enterprises, and I got this catalog. Again, that's going to be blurry, but this was the technology at the time. It was a multi-folded flyer.
Now, if I
Um,
recall, Lincoln Enterprises was Gene Roddenberry's
yes,
merchandise company,
yeah. Uh,
which,
you could.
people credit Lucas a lot with sort of the merchandising of a property, but
That's right.
for him to have his own merchandise on the side, which got a little awkward, if I remember, at a certain point, because he introduced that IDIC, that Infinite
Right.
Diversity and Infinite Combinations medallion, that he
Hmm.
then worked into the show on Spock
Yeah.
as a sales
It
pitch.
it was $7.50.
But that
Um,
sounds like a lot of money
it
at that
was
time.
a lot of money. I bought what did I buy? I bought these insignias, of course, to put on my jammies.
Were those iron-on patches, or were they sew patches, or
No,
what?
they were and I'm back. They were embroidered. They must have been the same company that was making them for the show. Um, I've preserved them in specimen boxes because, of
So
course, I
those,
do.
that's your original patch that you mail ordered.
That's it. Yes, you would get this in the mail. This cost one patch cost. Oh God, I got to do the grandpa thing here. Uh, Actual size, of course. Um, Insignia worn by the captain, 75 cents.
Which,
You could
which,
get a haircut and you could get a motorboat and every.
which at that
Uh,
point, I mean, comic books were what, 15 cents a copy? So that's still an
yeah,
investment that you're making in a patch.
yeah. That's all I could afford. So I got three of those. I think I just got like one at first, and then thought, oh, I gotta get more.
Yeah, well, you
So
had to have the
I,
set. I mean, they're showing you more than one.
which number catalog is this? Oh, this is the one where they announced, yes, Star Trek has been canceled. So it was still
That
um,
was that the first cancellation or the second cancellation? Was that the
probably
one that prompted the letter writing campaign, or was that?
probably, yeah, probably the first one. Um, so I got all of those. I got just carelessly threw it on the floor. It means nothing to me now. I got let's see here. There's the I guess that's science, or is that medicine? No, that's engineering.
Is that?
I
Is it?
can't remember.
Isn't the circle science?
The
The
circle is
spiral?
science. Yes, yes. So there's the captain or command. I guess the command dudes. But yeah, these were the embroidered on whatever that metallic stuff is.
So you never attached it to anything.
No, I couldn't figure out how. And I didn't want my mom to ruin them by sewing them onto
Why
some
not
piece of clothing.
from I don't know if there was a process that was available that early, but I remember some of the patches that I would get as a kid. Sometimes they would have that heat transfer, that sort of waxy
Yeah.
back that you could use to attach with an iron
Hmm.
as opposed to sewing it on.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
were, you were sort of setting a time clock to eventually lose it because it would fall off,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it was easier than having to sew it on or ask to have it sewn on something.
Let's see. What else did I get in this? Oh, a postcard picture of the Enterprise, all preserved in plastic. Um, Blueprints the of the ship which are all just Xeroxed copies stapled together of there's the shuttle bay. It's just a picture.
Are those Matt Jeffries
Probably.
blueprints?
Yeah. Well, if you can
Are they
call them
or
blueprints.
construction?
They might be. There's the shuttle from above.
Going back to that
Um,
postcard, the curious
mhm.
thing is that the one from the because that's in an atmosphere. That's not in space shot of the Enterprise.
Out of here, you. No. Yeah, that is
Was that the one from the backdoor pilot? What was the name of the spinoff character that had Terry Garr as his assistant?
Gary Seven.
Gary Seven. So wasn't that the episode where the ship was in the atmosphere of
Um,
Earth?
it was in the atmosphere too, where they pick up that jet pilot, and I can't remember the episode that's in.
Was
And I
that the
know a
same
number
one?
of. Is that the same one? Because they've
Because it was
screwed
an
up time.
American.
Yes, and they have to. Yeah,
Yes.
it
It's interesting that
probably
that would
is.
be the one they chose for, I guess, for a space show. Here's the one shot of it in Earth atmosphere.
Yeah. Uh, let's
Here's
see
our
how
pretty
much.
blue sky shot.
How much was that? Postcards. You could have got bumper stickers, official newsletter, which I don't know what this
I've never been
is. Other than
were you ever a bumper sticker person?
not really, not
Something
really.
about sort of permanently branding, no, or semi-permanently branding something like that, a statement on a vehicle that you're driving around.
Yeah, no.
Not a
Uh,
thing.
you could order the scripts. Um, how much was a script? Okay. Charlie X. How much was that? Uh, the final shooting scripts, but they don't say how much they are. They probably do somewhere. Oh, here we
I
go.
like that he was basically just selling off anything he could get his hands on. You got
Five
some
dollars and
production
fifty
scripts.
cents. $5.50. Get a script. They also, after the show was canceled, they sold a little viewer, a slide viewer, that you could put in a slide and you could look. And they suggested that to get clips of the show, that you contact your local TV station that is running the syndication or running the locally, and ask them for trims when they trim around for commercials, because locals would always cut more out of them. That's how you get your frame from Star Trek, is you go and ask,
So they'd
but they'll
send
sell you
you
the
the
viewer.
slide, essentially the slide holder. Is that what they were sending you? And then you
Yeah.
had to go find your image.
Yes, that's all. Let's see. That's a later one. Uh, yeah. Oh yeah. Catalog number 4. It still has my home address on it. Oh, and this was cool because Star Trek's obviously not going to be doing any more. So you can get, scripts and stuff still. Here's the viewer. Um, see that thing?
Oh, so it was like one you'd get like as a souvenir at a national
Yeah.
park or a
Yeah.
museum or yeah, okay.
Yeah. Even less impressive than you were thinking.
This
Uh,
the little plastic trapezoidal sort of
yeah.
viewing. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, you would get those. How much was
Now,
this?
did you get one?
No, it was too expensive. It was $1.25.
Did you at least use their idea and write into your local station and ask for trims?
Oh, no, not at all. Some you could get your favorite scenes, um, or just pictures of like the crew. Uh, but this was also the time when Star Trek's going away, so they also did kung fu merchandise, and they also did Search, which was um, I don't think that was a Roddenberry show. Remember Search, where they would
Vaguely.
have their, or Genesis 2, which I think was a
That was Roddenberry.
Roddenberry show, or Questor. So they crammed in Questor down here so you could get some merch off that thing. And of course, I just loved everything about this. As a
So
kid,
you
it's
would have
like
bought everything in that if you had the means.
if I'd had the means, I would have bought anything, everything. But I poured over this. This was all I had of fandom. Um, there was nothing. There was you could get toys and things that had been from some other toy line that they just stuck Spock's picture on,
Yeah,
and you
or
could
like
get
that
like
weird that helmet with the
yes,
with the
the
siren on it.
the police
The,
helmet with the
with the
siren
police
was
light on it and the siren.
Spock's brain. That's from Spock's brain.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Where he wore the medallion that you could buy from Lincoln Enterprises.
which I think Roddenberry's wife, I think, was helping with that. Nurse Chapel. I'm blanking on her name.
Major Roddenberry,
Yes.
Major Barrett.
Um, but I was one thrilled that something in a model kit I could send and there would be a response. That was cool. Uh, but and I still have parts of that model kit somewhere around here.
So I'm assuming that when you first started doing models, you just built the model that was in the box. Do you remember when you started kit bashing?
When we got tired of our model kits,
And for anyone who
they
isn't familiar, kit bashing is where you just bash up all the pieces that come in a model and you just mix and match and make whatever you want out of it.
make something else. Yeah, we didn't know what it was called when we were kids. We would just take our box of model parts over to a friend's house and, exchange parts or, hey, I've got this. It looks like a spaceship. Yeah, we did that all the time.
Do you remember the
Uh,
first thing you built you thought was really cool? The final result?
I built I guess, a spaceship out of like the floorboards of the interior of some old car. And I think I maybe stuck some rockets on it. And uh, my friend's mother would come through the room and he'd go, "Who's making that noise? Who's making that noise?" And I was always going, it's like, I'm a kid. I make noise.
But that you didn't save.
No, no. I tried to go through on the internet and find every model kit I ever built as a kid just from memory. And just like, where did all of that go? I built hundreds of model kits, everything. Uh,
Were you destructive with your models? Were you like, hey,
oh,
well, now
yeah,
we built it, so let's blow it up?
absolutely. Absolutely. Or they'd fall off the shelf or, they just
They were
weren't built very
disposable.
well. They were, yeah, it was all disposable. It was about building rather than displaying.
Would
But
you trade
car
models with
kits,
friends as well?
not so much. Not so much. They were just things. They were fun to build, and then you didn't keep them. Although a lot of that stuff wound up on Mystery Science Theater in the models that I built for that.
Oh, so a lot of that might have just eventually wound up as just material for
Yeah,
the.
yeah. I
So,
mean, I kept a box of parts, and if you know me, I'm always gluing something to something else.
because uh, now, did you build the first Satellite of Love or just the one for the
Yes.
film?
No, I built the first one.
So,
Uh,
how much of that would you say came from stuff you just had yourself that wasn't acquired
all of it.
specifically for it?
Except for the hull, which was made out of foam core. All those parts were off of toys and there's Lego parts. There's old shaving uh, razor things, disposable razor parts, and I think there's a deodorant container part of it.
So,
And
some of
yeah,
those
anything.
childhood models may have wound up on there.
Oh, absolutely. I built the Saturn V, the giant Saturn V Revell kit that I think was like 5 feet tall, and each stage would separate. And then you had the lunar module and the command module and all that stuff. A lot of those parts were in the Satellite of Love across all iterations of them that I built. Um, For instance, the saucer on the one that I built for the TV show, the first one, was the landing pad from the lunar module, which was an astronaut, and just the leg of the module, he's stepping onto the moon's surface. Uh, so, but the weird thing is well, not weird. It's probably cool. People know and recognize the parts. So a lot of like craftspeople that were early adopters of Mystery Science, they could go, "Oh, that's from that model kit, right?" And "Oh, that's from that uh, shuttle gantry model kit." It's just amazing people's memory. It's like Husker Du, the matching images game
So,
for nernies and stuff.
so did you document any of that yourself? Would you take photos when you, or everything was just like, we're throwing this is all
I would just
disposable. This is all just a project and move on.
Well, back in those days, it would have been a real camera. So it would have been
A film
an
cost in
effort.
developing, and yeah.
Yeah. I took a lot of photos that I had forgotten about, and going through this journey of finding these things for tonight's discussion, I went back through everything that I had saved from Mystery Science. And it's several full um, filing cabinets, tall filing
And
cabinets
you've saved a
full
lot.
of.
We've talked in the past about going through your archives because you saved everything, every
I
bit
have
of ephemera.
financial things and parts of memos and uh, yeah, everything all the way up to the movie and an agent search trip we took to LA and all of the media stuff for the movie promotion. Just the amount of stuff you get, just like thick books of like every newspaper article.
And yet,
And
and
I
yet,
don't know how
where
many
is the
books
jean
to put.
jacket you got at that Planet Hollywood in Manhattan?
I gave that away very quickly. Planet Hollywood, for people who don't know, was a terrible idea. Uh,
How many of those did you visit on that press tour for the movie?
I went to one in Dallas. I went to the Minneapolis one. One, of course, in Hollywood. Um, and it was a place for bad food. It was kind of like a Fridays for movie memorabilia.
Yeah, it was it
Only,
was it was a Hard Rock cafe, but not cool.
yeah, yeah. uh, we eventually, I think, like Jeff Maynard built a bunch of Tom Servos and Crows that were supposed to go to all of the various restaurants around the
To immediately
country.
be displayed.
Yes, yes. Never saw one in a restaurant.
But some of them have come up for auction recently, haven't they? I think someone
Oh, really?
yeah, some of the ones that were made for Planet Hollywoods, I
Yeah.
think have.
They weren't meant to perform. They were just static. Just get them out the door as quickly as we can.
Yeah, I think the one in Manhattan was a Tom Servo
Mm,
donation. Uh, but it was if anyone wants to listen to the audio from that very awkward presentation to a lunchtime crowd who could care less and were very confused by the interruption in their meal in Manhattan by these folks in a tiny darkened corner of the Planet Hollywood, this presentation with the day manager
yeah.
doing the actual presentation. They can go on my Patreon. It's one of the exclusives you can get on my Patreon because I
Oh,
was
awesome.
there for that. So they can listen to just how awkward it was, and I posted some of the photos.
Oh, good,
And
good.
if you have looked at the faces Trace has been making in remembering that day, you'll recognize those faces from the day itself. Because it
Yeah.
was a super awkward. What I loved is when they pass the jackets out to you, like this is the coolest thing they could give you. How exciting is this that
No.
you're getting these jackets? You were the only one who refused to put it on and just put it on Crow. You you
I
just
thought
draped it
it
over the
would look
crow.
good on Crow because he was in the movie and we're promoting the movie, and I thought it looked good.
I have
I
never seen someone put a jacket on faster than Kevin, but you put that just right onto the crow and just looked like you wanted nothing to do with it.
I'm not a denim guy. I'm not a denim.
Oh yes, let's remember it was a jean jacket
Yes,
that they gave you,
yes, with a giant logo on the back, multicolored Planet Hollywood logo.
which you could buy in the gift shop on the way out.
I think that went to a niece or nephew. We got a lot of pop color shirt, collared shirt, whatever those are called, with the logo on them. Um, but yeah, that was a bad way to promote a movie during lunch when nobody cares.
No, and
Uh,
you had all their little TV screens that were constantly playing just the trailers for Terminator and Rocky and
yeah,
Die Hard that suddenly had Mystery Science Theater 3000 the movies trailer playing up there to again a confused assemblage of patrons from the Midwest. I mean, basically your brethren, where they're going, listen,
yeah,
we got away from the Twin Cities to get away from them. This was supposed to be the big city. Why are they here?
yeah. Well, it's was that in Times Square? No, Washington Square.
Times Square,
No,
Washington Square was the
time.
book signing
That's right.
that night at a bookstore that, in retrospect, looks like the set design from Frasier.
Oh,
Like
I
it
don't even
had that, they
remember.
had that. It was that weird sort of B. Dalton, that era of paneled wood and
Mm,
whimsical like giant clocks and things like that. I forgot what the name of that design sensibility was, but that sort of weird, earthen, oppressively homey and academic feel to things.
yeah,
Like you're in somebody's whimsical study.
yeah. I don't recall the environment. I just remember I was focused on making people happy, Ken. I wasn't looking at the.
You were the only one.
Yeah.
I noted you were the only one who was, and you know what the thing is, by making people happy, it was you going, how quickly can we just get out of here? Can we just,
It just a cavalcade of awkward situations and moments on that tour.
well, for anyone who knows their Mystery Science Theater history, I mean, you pretty much had one foot out the door at that point. So this was not so much a victory lap as sort of like a finding the door lap.
Well, yeah, I guess I'd kind of convinced myself that I was going to go. And it was all headed that way, you know, with season 7 being a truncated season. Um, we'd made a lot of people unhappy at at the channel, uh, but it didn't. I We came out of a screening for the movie once. I don't remember where, but Mike said, the movie that killed the company." He was pretty close to right.
You got to shoot at Paisley Park though.
That was that was interesting. I mean, it was just a soundstage, really. Prince wasn't there, or maybe he was, but
Oh
he
come
was
on!
off
I'm
in
sure
his
like
chamber.
Swan in Phantom of the Paradise, he was probably
Yeah,
monitoring you all.
you look over and oh, I thought I saw something. No, there's
No,
just
I'm not here. And he,
a lot of scarves, a lot of candles that I remember in some of the recording rooms. But
I'm assuming that was what the cantina was like. Just when you guys would get your meals, it was all just lit by candles.
I don't remember eating there. I think we were all business. We just went in, recorded the movie segment, and then bolted. I think it took us 2 days
So it was
to
just the
shoot.
movie segment at Paisley. Where were the
Yep.
actual sets?
Those were at Energy Park Studios, kind of north, I guess, between Minneapolis and St. Paul. Those are gone now, but it's just another big studio facility. It's back in the golden days when everyone was shooting in Minnesota.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it wouldn't be the first place where that all just went away.
We could have stayed in our little TV set and studio and been completely fine. I don't know why it had to go there. Um, a lot of compromises were made. You know,
It's a it was weird. The first time I saw the film was in a tiny screening room in Manhattan. Was Gramercy set up a little press screening,
Oh, they did.
and so I think maybe it was like a 50 seat little screening room in
Hmm.
some building in Midtown, and a couple of press people, probably some executives and marketing people were there. But it was a super bizarre thing just to be sitting there at the beginning and having the knowledge of the TV show and being a fan of the TV show. And then it was the first time I've experienced a thing where it felt like there was too much money put into a thing.
Hmm.
And it just felt sort of overly large and airless.
Yeah.
And it's and there were the weird gaps, the kind of thing where you when you strip a laugh track off of something and you're like,
Yeah.
why is the Fonz just standing there? Why is the uh that's how it felt. Like it felt like there was a lot of beats left out of fear that that things had to be seem more grandiose, and you had to see that it was a feature film instead of going, hey, is
Yeah.
this just funny and fun? Is just what are you focusing on? It
Yeah.
was the
No,
first time I really got that sense of uh uh someone choosing a form over function
hmm
when it
yeah,
came to
I
a creative piece.
uh I knew we were kind of in trouble. I mean, I think comedically it works. I think it's still funny, but there's just a lot of nonsense, a lot of, like you say, air, a lot of too much air. It lost its intimacy, I think, by expanding the sets and expanding that frame. Now you've got these characters that are here, but you've got this whole expanse, this cathedral. And I knew we were in trouble. I walked onto the set of the TV show, and Maynard was measuring the set, and I knew exactly why he was measuring it. I said, "Why are you doing that?" And he goes, "Well, we need to make this movie set 3 times bigger." Is that a Sid Field thing? Is that you're transferring it from like the Beverly Hillbillies movie is 3 times bigger, the car is bigger, the hats are bigger. It's like, this is ridiculous. Why are we doing this? Well, how are you going to get the camera in there? It's like, I, ah, boy, you
We have a
got
camera
me.
in here. We're not just doing
You
it.
got me. And we had just watched Das Boot, which is a very claustrophobic environment. And I went, oh, good. This is because that's what it should be. It should be a cluttered,
Intimate,
environment where,
intimate space.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
I mean,
uh,
psychologically, you want to feel that he's trapped there if that's what you're trying to get across.
yeah. Well, I don't know why we jettisoned the theme song too, because that explained what it was that you were watching. Uh,
Well, coupled
so I
and
don't know.
it also just felt a weird imbalance to not have TV's Frank there as someone
Yes.
for Forrester to play off of, where it just seemed like you were sort of in your own, like you were trapped alone yourself in
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
other space and no one to play off of. Like you were sort of cut off from everything else. Like you felt
Yeah.
like insert shots. Like, oh well, we did some pickups and brought in the character of Forrester to explain all
Yeah.
of
A
these
lot of
things.
those were pickups. A lot of them. Yeah. Frank should definitely have been part of that. And it was, I think, since he'd left, in the eyes of certain people, he was dead to the show. And it's the why not just get him back? Just
Yeah,
pay for
it's a
whatever.
plane, it's a flight, and I'm sure he could have
Yeah,
crashed on someone's couch.
absolutely. Easy, easy. It would have been more comedic moments, more fun. A reason, again, to reinforce why Mike and the robots were trapped and all of that. So just there's so many decisions over the years of that show that were bad ideas, and yet the thing still lives on. So who knows? Who
Well,
cares?
well, there's so much of it. that people can find the things they still love within it. And
Yeah,
and the
exactly.
movie, once we got into the movie segments, the awkwardness was gone. It's probably density wise the densest amount of riffing that
It could
was
be.
ever done.
I think it was more meticulously crafted because we had more time, and we tested it in front of an audience. We did that movie at the convention, I think.
Yeah, it
Um,
was the year prior, wasn't it?
yeah,
The live show that you all
hmm
did in Minneapolis.
yeah, and Frank did write on it. He contributed, before he left. We were working on that. So
Now,
yeah, that
as far
was
as you, does a cut exist, or did a cut exist of the film where you had riffed the whole thing unedited, or was it always trimmed?
I think it was always trimmed. Um, because there's a lot of planet flying over stuff once they get to Metaluna. There's just a lot of that. Uh, but yeah, I think we might have cut too much. I think it's shorter than a TV episode.
Oh yeah, I think it
Um,
runs what, 75 minutes,
yeah,
something like
which
that,
is
80
probably a
minutes.
better runtime for a theatrical comedy. 70 seems to be a sweet spot for a lot of the classic
Yeah,
72, whatever.
or even 90, but anything beyond
Yeah.
90 really seems to be stretching it on a comedy.
Well, especially with a comedy, I think. Um, people get fatigue.
But
So,
now, I mean, you've certainly hit that sweet spot with the Mads are back, the live shows that you've been doing with Frank,
short and
which went
sweet.
digital over the past what was it, the fourth anniversary? Is that when you ended it? Was it 4 years of doing the
Yeah,
virtual
we
version?
we did 4 years. We'll probably be back and do a special now and again if we find a movie that we really like.
But it was nice because that was a solid hour
Hmm.
of shorts or movies, and a nice Q&A. But you sort of hit that sweet spot of this is all you need. This is all you need to have a good
Yeah,
night out.
kind of based on our bladders, but also just a lot of those movis
Your
can't
bladder seems
sustain.
fine. Frank, I've never seen anyone with a smaller bladder than Frank.
uh, I can't comment on a man's bladder. That's just.
You know what?
But yeah, a lot
But
of
he's a trooper. I'll give him that. We made it through Rogue
yes,
One, and a few other movies when I was in Manhattan for a bit. We saw a few movies together, but I've never seen a man make a beeline faster after a film is done. Like it's a magic trick. It's a magic trick to see Frank
yeah.
disappear at the end of a film.
Well, we think we've solved that dilemma of
Well, well, if
bladder to
anyone's
film
seen the live
ratio.
shows, you worked it out fine. There's a lovely little
Yeah,
intermission.
yeah.
It's all themed. It's delightful.
I think
Uh,
that an hour of anything, um, probably enough. But especially those movies, we're always trimming 10 or 20 minutes out of those things anyway, and it's all just running or cars
well, yeah.
or
So when you were not able to trim that much, or before you knew to trim that out, how difficult is that for the writing? Because it's a comedy killer. So what do you're looking at that, what, just trying to find how we're going to fill this air because nothing's happening.
well, yeah, you just gotta keep throwing stuff at it, and there's a number of them where we're just big stretches of like underwater sequences of like,
Or
here's another
climbing.
underwater sequence. Well, yeah, climbing. What are you gonna do? Um, but as far as like keeping the integrity of the movie, it's like, well, uh, remember what we do to them, you know?
But the curious thing about, because you're looking at a lot of B and C level movies that were intended as filler and produced as filler.
Yeah.
And they had to make a certain runtime to be considered a feature.
Hmm.
So that was shot as filler and wound up in those original cuts as filler to pad time. So you're really cutting out the thing that they intentionally put in there to make time up and to make them longer. They weren't
We were
intrinsic
helping.
to the story in the first place. You're basically making the work of art as it always should have been.
Well, yeah, we're trying to help. We're 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 trimming the fat. We're
Yeah.
butchers, but we have a delicate touch.
You
I,
care.
does
You're
that make
still
sense? I don't know.
preserving
Yeah.
enough of the story.
Yeah.
People know exactly what's going, probably even better than they did before because I'm not being distracted by 10 minutes of walking.
Yeah. Or some like love scene that goes on between, astronauts. It's like, time to take that out.
Is there anything that because I know you over the years have basically purged a lot of that from your memory. Are there any of those films that remain indelible in your mind?
Um, Boy, yeah, I did really flush a lot of that away. There are moments of things that, but there's nothing like I remember, oh, that was a great sequence or that worked really well. There's just so much, Ken. There's hundreds of hours of this stuff.
Can you
Um,
imagine going back and having to rewatch everything you've done?
no, 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 I would rather not do that. If there was another box to check that says you don't have to, that's what I would check. And we've looked at them over the years. We've gone back. I think maybe Joel's the only one that's ever gone back and really looked at all of it. Uh, to when he redid the show. Um, but I can't. I no, don't
Never
look
been an
back.
urge that you've
So
had.
moving forward, we're not going back. We're not going back, Ken. We're going forward.
Innovation.
Yes.
We probably should start your first item. We at least to
We
get that
did. We
kicked
did.
up. Oh, so the
Star Trek
patch.
was my first item.
Okay, so is this those patches or
Yeah.
okay?
The patches are the whole fan club thing.
I wasn't sure we went so subtly into that transition that I did not
It's
know
great.
that was your first choice.
Ugh.
So now we get to go into your second choice.
Second
If you do
choice.
not get caught up and entangled within your cords.
I gotta find the folder.
By the way, is that the Think Geek, not Hal behind you?
Oh, that
Yeah.
this is that is no, that's the Mobius model kit
Oh, really?
of Hal. Yeah. Uh, so
Oh, that
I
is
think it
brilliant.
came with the light, but yeah, it's a ridiculously expensive model, but I couldn't resist. Because it's just basically like four, maybe seven parts with a stand, which is
now
ridiculous.
you could 3D
Because
print. You could 3D print the entirety of
yes,
that thing.
yes, you can. I don't know how you do the lens, but I think it's like $40 or something like that, and it's nothing. It's like
Yeah, I was surprised yeah. That's just the side of
um,
vacuum forming, isn't it?
almost, yeah. Um, but
But it
I
looks
had.
great. And you can hang it on a wall.
Yeah, people have modified it. There's a voice module that you can add to it, but I don't really need it talking to me. I have in my bathroom. I have the zero gravity toilet instructions from the movie, and that'll go next to it in the bathroom.
Is that your Peabody?
Why? How did that get in there? That well, yeah,
I
yeah.
thought it was
That's
that. I thought it was either that or the Lincoln penny I got at the Lincoln Memorial when I was 10. It had to be
yeah.
one of those things.
The penny from the Batcave, or the penny you could make at the zoo with the was it the rotomold fun mold Moldorama? Remember Moldorama?
Yeah, you could make a penny with like a monkey face on it.
Well, maybe I'm thinking I had a Lincoln bust. I had a
Oh, the
Lincoln
Lincoln bust
President
from the
Lincoln. Yeah,
Moldorama.
yeah,
So the Moldorama was just basically hot plastic molding in sort of an instant form
yeah.
that you just put your money in, pick the with the molds available when they swap them out,
Yep.
and you just have
Moldorama, go
this.
look online because there's a whole like, you know, world of Moldorama. There's only like 30 or something around.
You just
I
don't
think
reach
this,
in to grab yours before it's cooled,
oh, very hot. I have a lot of burns from,
grabbing them
well,
too
not
early
only,
in the.
well, also experimenting with remelting it because you could remelt the plastic as I did famously during one of my mother's bridge clubs. I'm in my room melting my Easter bunny uh, plastic molded Easter bunny.
No, what we're using
And
to melt it, like a hair dryer or
matches, just matches. Yeah, you know, kids matches.
yeah.
Um,
I mean,
uh,
you also could do that just with a light bulb at that point in that
yeah,
era too.
yeah, and it's smelly. I remember the smell. Dripped onto my desk, started burning my desk.
I remember just the smell that would come off of a light bright
Yeah,
with
3D
those.
printing
If
has
you
a lot of nostalgic
don't
plastic smell.
think I learned, don't put a larger size light bulb in the light bright than it called for.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, don't. I had
Or in your easy bake
little
oven.
section of pins that I could not put in because the plate in front had melted.
The light bright, that was a cool toy.
What yeah, we're just gonna give you thousands of little plastic colored pegs and some holes to punch through paper.
Yeah, that's all we needed.
Your subscription based light bright paper.
Yeah. So
So your
yes,
Peabody.
that was the Peabody. Since we were talking about Mystery Science Theater, I thought actually this was going to be an item that we could launch talking about Mystery Science Theater, but we already talked about Mystery Science Theater. Um, so
Now, did you get
it's
that at the ceremony, or did they send it to you afterwards?
oh no. They sent us one wall plaque, which was up in the office. And then my girlfriend at the time said, you should have one of these. And for $350, I think you could go and get your own and send it in.
Which at the time was like a house payment.
Yeah. Yeah. So I went, well, okay, I should have one. But yeah, that was something that we probably could have done as a company for everyone.
Or should have done as a company for
Yeah,
everyone.
sure. I think I'm the only one who did it, who sent in and
But as a Peabody Award winner, can you go back and get one at any point? As far as you know, like if you didn't have that right now,
I
could you go like, "Hey, I want it. I'd like to buy one now." To have it.
I looked several years ago, 10 years ago, because Joel, I told Joel I have one, and he wanted me to bring it to Comic-Con so that he could like in your face gym with it. And I said, well, maybe you can get one, you know. And then I looked and I couldn't find online. They must not do that anymore.
I'm sure
Or
it's probably not a
maybe it's
thing
only
they
for
just
recent.
advertise online. Just to, it's
Yeah,
like, hey, give us a phone call if you want to inquire about it.
yeah.
If you've won the Peabody,
But that's not uncommon with awards. Like, you know, if you were not one of the staff people that got a whatever Emmy or whatever, I think you can mail in with your
and get,
box tops and get an award.
but you're gonna
But
pay for it.
this one, this has been like so dusty. It was in the living room on a shelf.
Was it a? I'm surprised you weren't using it as a doorstop.
It is quite heavy.
So you
But
feel
yeah,
like
it
you've got
was,
your money's worth.
well, I didn't pay for it. So I guess I did. I did. Uh, but yes, that was a good recognizing that as, and I tried to be subtle with it
I
too.
had known you had won one, and there were a few other things that it could have been. But the only time you don't really see the small ones, you just see the plaque version that most
Yeah.
people. Does that
Yeah.
mean you could also get the plaque if you so chose?
I think so. I think you can. But I don't know.
I
They're
wonder if
still
the
giving,
prices has gone up any.
someone will let us know. Someone will,
If
or
anyone from the
we'll look
Peabody organization, if
yeah,
Mr.
yes.
Peabody or Sherman happens to be
Yeah.
watching this, if they could get in touch with Trace and let him know what it would take to get a plaque.
Well, I don't need a plaque, and I don't really care. I don't need another one, but
You should just keep getting them. Get as many as you can.
with different names on them. Uh, that was a just still a weird, cool thing to get. That this,
Did that come out of the blue? Because it's not,
yeah, as
it's
far as I
basically, it's
remember.
just an award. It's not like you have other nominees and then there's a
No,
ceremony
it's
where you find out that you've won it. It's just, hey, you won this thing,
yeah,
right?
that's about it. Yeah, it's like a showing up award. Uh,
Was there a
it
nice
was
dinner or ceremony?
Yeah, they flew us down to Athens, and we had a dinner and a ceremony, and the dinner they showed all the other serious like documentaries about AIDS or poverty or hunger or whatever they were, and then a segment from a film where we're making fun of a little person doing something in a battle sequence.
So
Very
they chose
odd
the clip.
choice. They chose the clip. They chose the clip. I think. I'm pretty sure they chose the clip. But
So who else would
uh,
you remember who else was there? Was everyone else of note that was part
Kevin
of?
and Mike and Jim. I think that was the group that went. Um, this
So
first
who
time I
has the
had
plaque
okra.
now? Does Jim have the plaque? Jim
Maybe. I
Mallon,
guess so.
for anyone unfamiliar, Jim Mallon, producer,
Of Mystery Science
Science
Theater. Yes.
Theater. Uh,
I don't know. I assume I
Did it wind up
left.
on eBay when when the show ended?
Probably. I left. That was years after I'd left that they had to dismantle the
Well, when
office.
you were there, it
So,
was up on the wall, just in the
oh yeah.
office.
hmm Did you ever visit those
I
offices?
I did not.
You can
I
still
think the
visit
last
them.
chance would have been what that last convention they had the tours.
Yeah, yeah. Or just show up. We had a lot of people just show up, go
Was it
through the
basically an open
trash.
door policy of
No,
just
we just weren't that very good, at keeping people away. Or security. Um, we were dumpster dived a lot, and a couple of the fans who uh, that I had talked to, I said, "Well, do you want any scripts or anything?" Because I got, oh no, we pulled those out of the trash. Also, your financials. We had all of that stuff was just never shredded or
well, isn't
just
that
tossed
where
away.
some of the like work prints of some of the episodes also wound up in folks' hands because there were VHS tapes that were just dumped in the
VHS.
trash?
Yep. Yep. I'm sure there were. Or I think Mary Jo sold a lot of hers at the Steeple People uh, consignment store or thrift store. Yeah.
So did you
A lot
walk
of
away
stuff.
with any? Did you keep anything?
I have scripts of all the shows that I was part of. I
I know
have
you have
all
your
the
glasses because they were your glasses.
yeah, I've got those. I've got it those and a half because I broke one pair in half. My original pair I broke in half, so I called my friend Paul and I said, those glasses I gave you, I need them back. So uh,
I bet you have you ever been able to find another
no,
set of those?
nope. Those were from a thrift store in Minneapolis, and they were part of wherever you get lots of thrift store stuff. They were from France, and I've never been able to find another pair similar.
Now, didn't you have
Uh,
were Mary Jo's that she wore as pearl? Were those also the same
yes,
brand?
yep, I bought them all at the same time,
She had
and I just
green and red, and that was it, or there were
yep,
other colors
yep.
you had as well.
Those were the only colors I had, uh, and
And as far as you know, no one else has been able to track down.
they've come close. There were several other pairs purchased for the film as backups, and none of them looked right. So I rejected them all. And those were eventually all sold at auction as the originals for an amazingly
Well,
stupid amount of
original to the
money.
film, so technically,
Original, we bought them for the film. One guy bought a pair, and I had to email him and said, I got to tell you, and I was long gone from the show. Those are not the originals. You're paying way too much. It was hundreds of dollars. It was stupid.
that's
I said,
Peabody
well,
money.
yeah, but yeah, I've got the originals. I think I have them. I might have a mustache. I don't, which is an odd thing to keep. Uh,
So
but yeah, I
when did
didn't.
you transition to using the fake mustache?
It changed off and on. If we were going to do a bunch of shows, I'd try to grow it for that because I hated gluing one on. It never looked right. Uh,
I know you
so
grew it out for Dragon Con when we did that one-off Forrester and Frank
that's
Deep
because I
13 talk
cared.
show.
Again, Frank, Frank.
Was that the name for the mustache?
uh,
Was that you?
yeah, yes, I called my mustache Frank. Um, yeah, that was I think the last time. I don't know if we put our costumes on for Halloween a couple of years ago on the Mads are Back show, but I don't remember if I must have had a must or glued it on. I must have glued one on. Hey, let's go glue one on. That's what the kids say.
We're
But
partying
no,
tonight,
there's
Frank.
there's a few crow parts I think that I have that might be original. Um, but I didn't keep a crow. I made one later, of course, for Dragon Con when you had Bill and I there, which is I think you can also find on your Patreon, can't you? That Crow versus Crow.
Yeah, yeah, including the one that I built, which is behind me. The one that was the pie tin and
I always like people's versions, their own versions of Crow. I've seen some really great, not canon or they're very off model, but they're really cool and
well, this
endearing.
if as long as you get a couple of the elements similar enough,
Hmm.
you know the shape of the
Yeah.
thing. It's
And every crow is different. Everyone who builds them, they're all a little bit different. And I think that's cool. They shouldn't be just carbon copies.
well, the one that everyone is building when they're trying to duplicate it is really your refinement and revision of Joel's original build for the KTMA days.
Yeah.
So like sort of like the final version of Crow is really your version of
Yeah.
Crow.
Yeah.
Do you remember, because if I remember correctly, you made a lot of those adjustments just for how am I going to actually perform with this thing? Functional
Yeah,
adjustments, right?
exactly. It's like how can I puppet this thing? It's, unwieldy, it's heavy, and it's got to get more life to it. So,
Sort of taking an
putting
art piece into a performance piece.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. And figuring out like uh where his eyes should sit in the brow so that you could do different expressions. I did do a little bit of thinking about all of that stuff. Um, and have recently had to revisit building a crow for some god awful reason I can't think of. But it's been very interesting to revisit that and like go, oh yeah, that's why I did that, or that's how that works.
So you're
And
recalling those thought processes that went into
yes, and I've avoided building this particular crow for 10 years or more uh,
who's counting? Who would count? Who would be
because of
counting that?
the
Who would
emotional distress and heartache associated with that.
where is yours? Is yours packed away still? Your sort of your travel crow that you had built
Oh no,
for?
that's in the studio. That's in the other room. Um, I've been using that as a model to remember how did I do that? Oh yeah. Um,
Always found it fascinating. What was because you had the travel case was an instrument case, right? Because you that
it
was specifically to break down to travel with as well. You built that one.
Yeah, yeah. That was like a suitcase like this kind of thing. Like, an old
Hard case.
suitcase from a clothing store, thrift store. But it all packed down because there's this like a giant, servo fits so nice on a table. But Crow is like
He's
it's
unwieldy.
top heavy. It
A lot
didn't
of
have a
dangly bits
base.
that'll break off and
Yeah. I knocked over my electronics here.
he wasn't designed to be fly friendly. He's not easy to
Yeah.
travel with.
Not easy to travel with, and uh, that first one was just so difficult to puppet and, get any kind of expression. So
Well, I mean, even the mouth mechanism, wasn't it basically just like twine essentially that was actually
I
operating the lower jaw that would just, I mean, there's all the friction on that. You're not gonna get a
yeah.
lot of.
Well, I just had a carpet thread or a jeweler's thread that I used for the thing. And then the eye mechanism was a little bit of some engineering that had to get figured out. But um, yeah, I didn't keep any other than the glasses. I have a lab coat that I got so that we could do the Dragon Con thing. Um, but yeah, no memorabilia other than or
Other than just
props or
all the
anything.
paper ephemera, all of the
Just yeah,
scripts and
scripts and
financial statements
and
and
financial
contracts.
statements.
And
Yeah, all of that stuff. All of that stuff.
so you're the only one
Memos.
who knows where all the financial bodies are buried still.
Well, I don't know if I could even like put together anything like that. I've got like random sheets of like, and I don't even know why I kept them, but
But it doesn't.
uh,
Was it a memo heavy office? It doesn't seem like it would be.
yes,
Was
yes, it
it?
was. Yes, lots of memos, lots of memos. And we spent an enormous.
Enormous.
Sure, why not? Um, we spent a lot of dumb time going through contracts and things that we should have left to our lawyer. But we had so many meetings that were so just god awful, boring, just going over line by line over contracts.
This
And
all
it's like,
sounds very Midwest.
could we
There's
go
a,
back and be in the writing room now? Because this is really not. This isn't what we should be doing.
who wrote the most memos?
Jim, he was the head of the company, so he was always memoing us.
Who had the best responses to those memos?
Oh, I don't know.
Because
I can't
surely that
remember.
must have prompted comedy. There must have been snarkiness and acting
I'm
out in
sure.
response
I'm
to
sure
those
there was. I
memos.
don't recall anything specific.
But you weren't quick to draft a counter memo or response.
No, I think we just like filed them. I'd have to go back and actually read them, which I may never have done.
Well,
But
the
it's
winters are long in Minnesota. You
yeah,
have a lot of downtime coming up.
it might make an interesting like scrapbook at some point to put all that stuff together.
I mean,
But
I think there's plenty of stuff
I don't know.
there. At least for the fan base that still exists out there. I'm
Well,
sure
if we
there's enough
paired it,
fun.
yeah, but if we paired it with all of the interviews that you've done over the years of MST, at least it would
Yeah,
have an
well,
audio
I
track.
mean, between us and whoever's watching this, there was talk of things in years past, but for a lot of weird reasons, Mystery Science Theater 3000 is a minefield of so much drama. There's so much drama tied up in this little Cowtown puppet show.
So much needless drama.
It is the very definition of needless drama to so much of it, but it's from an outside perspective, it is hilariously needless drama
Yeah.
and just sort of pettiness on profound levels that
Yeah.
that you just have to look at and go, really?
And
Why? What?
and not focused on any one person. It's sort of it's been spread across that whole organization.
All of you are delightfully unique personalities that
Wow, that's political.
that have that straight out of a Tennessee Williams play. Is there a
Tennessee
Tennessee
Williams
Williams of the
Jr.,
Midwest?
maybe. Huh?
Tennessee Williams is like the South. Is there a Tennessee Williams of the Midwest? Is it basically
Um,
the Coen brothers? The mini, mini, Mystery Science Theater is a Coen film. It is without a doubt. You could make a
yeah.
Coen film out of the inter-office relation at
Yeah.
Best Brains.
And just that it survived, that we still managed to do something. We really came in at the absolute right time in history because, cable needed programming and we were a lot of it. So,
Well, you also had a local station that could have the disposable airtime, the need to be fillable airtime to
mhm.
give airtime to a weird little thing like this that was a lark.
Yeah,
So, you know,
yeah,
a collective of a bunch of creatives filling time on a schedule on a little local station, and then have a burgeoning cable industry desperate for content, not unlike streaming services in recent
yeah,
years, going, we have a
yeah.
lot of disposable income. We need to fill time. What's the talent pool that we can get dirt cheap? Where can we find? So, you have sort of this almost literal farm teaming of going out. Well, we got a Higgins Boys and Gruber. We got Mystery Science Theater. We got, what can we fill these hours with? You also had competing comedy networks that were
Yeah,
trying to find talent. So you had this arms race of who can be the channel that succeeds at being this comedy network. So you all were just in the right place, right time. You had, the benefit of Joel having some national recognition at that point,
right.
so it was an
Yeah.
easy sell to launch that. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Gesundheit.
Ugh,
What that was, the most Laurel and Hardy comedy sneeze.
nothing broke.
What's great is you also did it in profile, so the camera would read it fully as a
Oh,
sneeze. So you
I,
knew,
I was trying
seasoned
to
performer.
left a puddle, but
Uh, no, it's very unique in hindsight to see all of these factors, and just you all as a group, the talents you all brought. Having when Frank came in, having Frank there in that moment, and
yeah,
Mary Jo, and just the unique combination that you all brought to that, because you all have very different personalities. Uh,
yeah, yeah. We're thankfully,
and
yeah,
I wouldn't even say that you were all on the same page for
and that might have
for
helped.
a fair,
You know,
yeah. But you found a way to make all of those disparate elements and overlaps work, because I think the when it was at its best from an outside perspective seemed to be when the focus was entirely on, yeah, but what's funny,
yeah,
what's the, we're all having, this should be a fun thing.
absolutely, yeah. Uh, how human beings can make a thing harder is another lesson
That
learned
should be your
throughout
TED
that.
talk.
Yes, how to make things harder.
How to Rube Goldberg comedy.
Yeah, uh, and for a very simple idea, we sure did try to fuck it up.
I mean, there's you can certainly overcomplicate something, but I
Yeah,
think that's the unique thing that what Riff Tracks found and what the Mads are Back found was that, yeah, when you boil it down, what's the essence? What
yeah,
is the essence of this thing? What is the strongest comedic element to all of this? And it's you all as writers and performers having fun with this thing. And I think that's why that element of it has endured, because that
yeah. No, I'd
is
agree. And
the
yeah, it
core
was a
element.
funny show first. That
And
was
it was a dip into bowl. I mean, if you dipped into the movie segments, it didn't take long to understand what was going on and what the gist of this comedy was.
this is a great name for a snack. Dip Indibles. Dip Indibles would just be like a variety of dips. You supply your own chip. We can't do everything for you,
Yeah.
but Dip Indibles.
Are we doing this? We taking this to Shark
That's a
Tank?
million
Is
dollar
this
idea.
is this our thing?
Yeah.
I'm Ken. It is my partner Trace, and Dip Indibles is what we have for you today.
May not be a shark.
We're looking for a $17 buy-in. Wait, someone's gonna have to provide the dip. Uh,
But you're right.
easy
Yeah, it
sell.
was very sampleable. It was very, you know, and when another, thing about being on late at night is we got all like, restaurant workers and,
Oh,
people
I
who
mean,
are,
it's perfect night owl content.
yeah, yeah. Um, and that's, I it hasn't happened again like that with a little stupid group of people doing that. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, I think it's happening in different ways, but it's not leading to more long form things. Like I
Podcasts, I
think you see
guess,
that
and
innovation in TikTok videos, and
yeah, yeah,
I certainly the creativity is always going to be there. I think what just changes is where and how it's presented. So, and there's always going to be unique personalities out there and unique creative visions. It's just, what gets those things noticed, because
yeah.
the
It's
that
harder and
creativity can
harder, I
just be
would think.
somebody making arts and crafts in their home for themselves, or that never goes beyond a limited audience. So it's those weird circumstantial things that lead to something taking off. I mean, Comedy Channel could have said no,
Yeah, yeah.
and then you still would have been doing stand up, right?
Oh, I don't think so. I, I, yeah. Once Mystery Science came along, it's like it fulfilled so many creative needs for me that I didn't need to go back on stage and do that.
So you
Uh,
you don't have that same need to be in front of an audience, or I should say, not so much need, but uh, you don't delight in an audience as much as like Frank. Frank likes and loves going up in front of an audience
yes,
and doing stand up. That is a
yes,
love of Frank's.
yes. I would
That
agree.
doesn't exist in that same way for you.
I like being in front of an audience and getting like a response to a joke. That's always satisfying. I don't seek it out, and that could just be my age. Um, and we've had like great audiences over the years and very, appreciative audiences. And I'm more of a hermit. I also don't like crowds. So the only really way I can deal with crowds is being on stage and they're all over there. But being in the middle of a crowd, I'm just completely claustrophobic. Um,
But as far as
but
the
yeah,
what's interesting about the audience dynamic, as far as you being in front of a crowd, is towards when doing the live show, doing the Mads are back. I saw you guys make that transition from delivering the show, riffing the movie with the movie playing, but you're on stage and the movie's
hmm
playing behind you to the audience, to sitting in the front row with the audience and delivering that show
hmm
and bringing the audience into this thing, like, oh, this is more like this. The psychology of that was interesting to me, to see you guys make that conscious decision of, wait a second, why are we sitting off to the left or right on stage while this thing is playing? Why don't we just be down in the audience? It's less production. It's
yeah,
also more
yeah,
comfortable because we're getting
yes,
the better seats down in the audience.
hmm
We're getting a good angle to watch this thing that we're
right.
supposed to be doing. But a lot of people wouldn't make that choice to get down into the audience and do that.
Well,
Do you remember that conversation with Frank about?
well, the first few shows we did, we were on stage. Um, well, the first show we did was at the Atheist Convention in Memphis, Easter Sunday. That's where we started. Mads are back. And we were kind of on stage. There wasn't really a stage. There was just like we could sit in some chairs, and it was just awkward. Um, a lot of the setups we had were just awkward. They weren't stages. We worked at North Bar in Chicago, which was a great venue, but the stage was like 3 feet wide or 6 feet wide, and it was it just didn't make any sense anymore to be on stage. I always thought that was kind of a distraction too.
Because you did
You
that
know,
during Cinematic Titanic. You were on
yeah,
stage.
yeah. I just didn't think that was necessary. I'd rather have heard the joke along with the movie rather than have that other layer again of why do we have to be watching it? And that came out of like trying to develop a whole other riffing world around what we were doing. And on those early tapes, we were trying to create that world of the riffatorium or the whatever the hell the fiction was at that point
For Cinematic
of
Titanic.
cinematic Titanic. Yeah, we were somewhere in a bunker in a chamber in a thing, and
I just remember you all
yeah.
holding like a capsule, this big missile capsule thing.
Well, that was even earlier premise of it was supposed to be like the time capsule at the New York World's Fair, and we would put everything we did in that capsule, and it would be saved for I don't know what the fiction was. Uh,
How many
so I
hats are
when I
too
made
many
that,
hats on a hat?
yeah, I because it was all like, well, maybe we can even buy a place in the desert and we can actually bury this thing and all these different ideas that were kind of floating around.
What about the
And
circus? Did the circus ever enter the conversation?
there was, I forgot about, there's like some kind of circus element or whatever. Uh, but that's where that prop came from is like, Joel said, well, we should do the, like the time capsule. And I started calling it the time tube because I like alliteration. And then that is meticulously built to the exact same profile as the actual time capsule that they used at that fair.
So who has possession of the time tube now?
I have it. I have it. Uh, Joel shipped it back to me. It's in several pieces. I made it out of a series of plastic nesting, um, like sifting, like you sift sand through these things. They were like take them to the beach or whatever for kids. So I just found a lot of these at the junk store, and then actually had to carve the profile of the nose cone and all of that stuff. And it turned out we didn't need it anyway because it was going to be done in After Effects, and that's what you see in those tapes. You just see Joel going up to a silhouette of that
Yeah, it's
thing.
just all in silhouette. It could have been a
Yeah,
cardboard cutout.
yeah, it was like, really? That's what you wanted to use it for? You could have done that
So
in.
really, you
We
got
didn't
one
need
photo
this
out of
thing.
it.
Yeah, we didn't need this thing. Uh, but it was that was kind of getting evolved as we went along, and then we finally went. We don't have any more money to do in studio stuff. We certainly don't have any kind of budget to do this huge world building that Joel
And the
wanted to
audience
do.
isn't on tenterhooks about the lore of Cinematic
Yeah,
Titanic, wondering
yeah.
what's happening next.
Oh, the arguments we had over that. So many arguments. And then we found again, there was like, oh, an easier way to do it. We'll just do it live in front of an audience. And we got invited to do, I think that was the ILM show. Um, and we never went back because we never had the money. And then we did ran out of money. Um, so it just a lot, again, it was more complicated than it needed to be. And
Yeah.
even doing it on stage was more complicated again than we just need 5 mics. Just give us 5 mics.
I mean, if it's anything that Dragon Con has taught us over the years, is if you ask for more than one mic, then
Yeah.
you're
Get your tech down to the minimum. Yeah. So when Frank and I were going out on the road, I would bring a DVD, and then we had our scripts, and those were
you were the
on
most low
laptops.
maintenance act,
Very,
self
very
sufficient.
easy. Yeah. Um, because we couldn't be more uh, elaborate than that because it didn't have the funds.
And it
So
didn't need it. I
it
mean, that
didn't need it.
was.
It didn't need it.
I mean, again, I think the boiling down that you and you all in Riff Tracks have done over the years, just this is it. This is the funny.
Yeah,
This is
exactly.
all you need.
No, Riff Tracks, what they've done is just, took it to another level and a much simpler and more profitable level. Uh, that, and what are they still going? This is like their second year in business or something.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Second, and a couple more. No, I mean it's
Uh,
frightening to think that they're sitting at 20 years.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what is time? Is any of
Yeah.
this? Why do we
So,
shouldn't think about this? We should go
so,
on to your fifth item.
right.
We
This is why we have this. This is why we were
and I'm
given
wondering
this
if I
for all
could
that.
get one. I mean, if
I
it's
bet you
just,
could.
and I'm sort of three times removed,
Just get a
couple of
big
degrees of separation, I should be able
chocolate
to.
coin and glue it to a post thing.
You know,
Okay, so the
I
next
wonder if
item.
anyone has a 3D model of the Peabody out there in the internet.
There you go. There you go. It would be
Okay,
lighter
next time
too.
we talk, I'm going to have a 3D printed version of the Peabody.
It wouldn't be hard. Just scan it
I'm going to
and
put Joel's name on it and say that. So
so is that
your fifth item. So this is
we've gone two items?
technically just one. It's just the Star Trek, unless you were going to mention the Peabody as one of your items.
It was one of the items to get into the mystery science talk.
Okay.
So
So
that was an
that was
item.
your so you we're gonna say your fifth item was your Peabody.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
As
so
if you thought we would need some kind of artificial way to seg into Mystery Science Theater talk. So you're number
oh
four.
shit. I've one of them I forgot to bring in here. Um
Is it a
okay,
small item, large item?
it's
You
a
want to
small item.
you want
Small
to
item.
you want to go grab it?
I could run and get it, but let
Yeah,
me
I'll
go to
fill
this
time.
next. Yeah, let me go to another item. I have
Okay.
another item right
Okay.
here.
Okay.
Some of this is prepared. Just lean over here and get it. Um,
I imagine Katie leaning in from a text you just surreptitiously sent to her. Just
yeah, I could. But it's kind of fragile. I'd have to go get it. It would take me like 2 minutes. But let's go to this next item first. It's an audio daily double. Um, yeah, as you love British humor. I kind of get that impression. I've always loved British humor. One of my favorite movies is The Ruling Class, which is Peter O'Toole, um, thinks he's Jesus. And I had the opportunity to have, well, first I have the cast album, which of course I have no idea where I got the cast album for that film, The Ruling Class. Uh, and when Peter O'Toole was touring with his book, his biography, I think it's a multi-part biography, out of print now. Um, I wish it wasn't. I would love to read it because I went to a book signing and they said he's only signing books. But I brought this with me and he signed it. It's I don't know if that's going to focus. There you go, Peter O'Toole on the album, and this must have been the 80s, maybe. He was still very sharp, witted, and he had his cigarette holder and his ascot, and he was very regal. And he
So
says,
this
"Oh, yes,
post
Jesus."
Supergirl.
I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to look at when his biography came out. Um, he was also obsessed with Hitler. So there's footage of him on a ladder looking in Hitler's window of his house that he grew up in. I don't know if that's on the internet, but
I mean,
there was
I think you could say that a lot of Brits of that sort of boomer,
yeah,
early boomer age, that sort of that well, not boomer age, that's sort of that child during the war
yeah,
age.
yeah.
In fact, while you do that, I'm going to look up when his biography came out.
Uh, hard to get, very expensive now, but I've always loved that film and always admired him. Obviously, Lawrence of Arabia and all the other great movies that he made. But it was just a thrill to get to put this in front of him and have him sign it. And it's a film that kind of it goes on a little too long. It's maybe 15 minutes too long. But it's always been a favorite, and I think Criterion has it, are showing it at the moment.
Just
Not
loitering
at the
with
moment.
intent.
Is that the
Is that the
title?
name of the? Because there's loitering with intent. The Child, Volume One is out.
Yeah, there's multiple volumes.
But this list, release date of January 1st, 1651. So I don't know if we can trust Amazon on this.
Hmm. I don't remember that decade. Yeah.
No, but that was definitely pre Supergirl then.
Yeah.
Uh,
Wasn't that 80s?
Publication date. Now this must have been a re-release in '97,
Oh, maybe it
right?
is available.
Yeah, it looks like it's been re-released.
Oh, I'll have to get that.
Ba, 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 ba. No, this says it was published in '97. Wouldn't have been '97 when you got it signed, right?
Hmm.
You would have been
Maybe.
in LA in
Oh
'97,
no,
right?
yeah, I would have been in Los Angeles.
Oh,
Maybe it
so
was the first volume of his or a different book. I don't remember.
well, we'll leave this to the viewers to figure out when it was. So, do you have
Uh,
that? Now, where? How do you display that? Do you have it just on a shelf or framed normally, or
I have it wedged in between all the other albums that I have.
well, I know you've gotten a few
LPs.
other albums signed. Didn't you get Neil Innes to sign an album when we were together?
No, I didn't bring any of that stuff too, but I've got the Bonzos on LP and all the Python stuff, all the Ruddles on LP.
I
Um,
bought the Ruddles album with you when you were
yeah,
playing Durham
I
with the
have
Mads.
that very the uh, what do you?
Gatefold.
Yeah, a lot of British stuff. A lot of Python. I wish I still had like Life of Brian. I gave that to someone to listen to, never got it back. Matching Tie and Handkerchief.
Matching Tie
Again,
Handkerchief is the one I took to Dragon Con and had Neil and Terry Gilliam sign
ah,
for
brilliant.
me.
Brilliant. I wish I still had that one. One of the best comedy concepts in manufacturing of an album that you could not duplicate in any other way. Uh,
So please explain it for those watching who aren't familiar.
Matching Tie and Handkerchief was an album that was uh, for the kids. A record album has a groove in it, and it just goes around and around and around. Well, they put two grooves on one side of the album. So when you would put the needle down, you didn't know where you were or what you were going to get.
You had a 50-50 chance of whatever groove it was going to go into.
Yeah. And try to figure it out. It was just brilliant. But a lot of their albums were like that, just great graphic design and fucking around with people.
Or the Big Red Book, which was not red.
Yeah, I have that too. Extensive Python library, um, which will be the next item,
Oh.
leading into. But the whole genre, as you know, and you've sent me many things from the League of Gentlemen and all that great stuff that we love of Psychoville and Inside Number Nine and all of that. I feel like it's all sort of the whole British wave, which I'm just enamored with. The Bed Sitting Room, another film that I love.
Well, that was the only film done by I'm forgetting the name of the Goons.
Right. Yeah. Um,
Directed by Richard Lester,
that's right.
who not only went on to direct the Beatles, but also Superman.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, that was
Um,
he certainly brought the same sensibility he brought to the Bed Sitting Room to Superman 2.
I just realized I do have, speaking of the Goons, I do have another piece of memorabilia that I got as a wedding gift. The office manager at America's Funniest Videos had worked for the BBC and had used to take dictation from Spike Milligan, who, as he would lay under the couch and she would sit on the couch typing, he would dictate as he. But I have Harry Seacombe's uh, autograph. Again, it's not going to focus. Who was one of the goons, and this was cut off of an envelope, so it just says "Yours truly, Harry," and then Harry Seacombe underneath. So I don't know how authentic it is or any way to authenticate it, but I just like that I got a goon
Well,
item.
I'll reach out and see if my pal Dan Schreiber, who was on the first episode of Just a Few Things, and you can see some of his Spike Milligan items.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
I watched some of that. Yes.
he would probably, I would bet he has a Harry Seacombe. Also featured Harry Seacombe in the musical Oliver. If you want to
Yes.
see Harry sing
Yes.
and deliver the immortal line more, I'll leave the delivery to him.
Um, I think I might have a Spike Milligan. I think I might have a book or something somewhere uh, that he signed.
I have a
Uh,
signed edition of Pacoon that Dan Schreiber unintentionally gave me when I was in London,
oh yeah,
and then for years couldn't figure out where it was, not remembering that he had given it to me. I
of which
still have that copy of
cocoon?
Puckoon, uh, 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 written by name just went out of my head.
Milligan.
Milligan, by Spike Milligan.
Yes. Oh, okay. Yes.
So
Yes.
signed by Spike, a paperback copy of it that,
Hmm.
and just a bunch of books that he was giving me at the time. He gave me that, gave me a signed Terry Pratchett,
Nice.
and then had forgotten that he gave it to me, and thought his wife had misplaced it,
Oh,
and they had a lovely discussion about it. And then
did
it
you
was
give
like,
it back?
no, no, he gave
Oh,
it to me. I'm not, I
oh.
can't do. He's got like 70. He's got Spike Milligan's drink set. He's got Spike Milligan's like personal atlas. He's got he's got enough Spike Milligan
He's
stuff.
yeah,
He's set for Spike Milligan.
yeah. I have like only one or two things of any given. I've got a signed print from Gilliam. Uh, that it's too hard to take off the wall, but he was going to make a lot of money off these prints, and I don't know if they sold any.
We also got Terry Jones.
I got Terry Jones, my signed coconuts. I just found my John Cleese. There was like a trading card that they did at one point, and I've got that signed, and I think a Holy Grail poster signed by John. Um,
So you're only missing Eric and Michael
Eric, Michael, Graham.
and Graham. Graham will be a little bit harder to get.
Yes. I just ran across the tickets at the Guthrie when I went to see Graham live at the Guthrie.
Was that when he was promoting his Liar's autobiography?
That and the Dangerous Sports Club. Um,
But you didn't get anything
uh,
signed during that. You didn't have a.
no, no. I had contemplated asking him for a drink after the show, but that probably would have been a bad idea.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you learn a few things.
Yeah. I think I've got Starship Titanic. Was that Gillian? Or no, that was
Terry
Jones.
Jones
Yeah,
novel,
I've
right?
got signed. Um,
Well, I mean, I don't
all
know
the
if he's
Brits.
doing it again. So Michael Palin was one of the things that we were missing,
Hmm.
and then my Dan Schreiber said, you can just order his books from his website,
Yeah,
and he'll personalize them. You have to give a little bit of time, but he's
yeah.
just selling them for cover price, and he'll inscribe and send it to you. So I contacted my buddy Mark and was like, "Did you know this was a thing?" Like, no, we got to do this because it's cheap and
Yeah.
it's Michael
Yeah.
Palin. So he went, I think he ordered a set of the of his memoirs signed. And I,
Hmm.
not having as much disposable income at the time, just got I think one of his limerick books.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a lovely Michael Palin signed book off of his
Yeah, I
website.
don't know if he's still doing that. If
I
he's
think
still
it was
signing.
around, I think the pandemic is what
Yeah.
shut it down because that was not a good time to be focusing on
Yeah.
that. But he might have started up back up again. It's worth checking his website if anyone wants to check that out
I
as
will
a
check it
thing.
out.
And then Eric
Yeah.
Idle, that my friend Mark got me his autobiography, a signed edition. So the only ones that I'm missing are Graham and John.
Hmm.
Uh, so
Well, he's going to be at Dragon Con this weekend.
I'm not, and
Yeah,
you're
nor am
not.
I. No,
You
we
haven't been
would be,
there in
as
what?
we said.
You haven't been there in 8 years?
Yeah, I think it's been that long.
2016
Yeah.
would have been the last. That was pretty much your end for doing conventions.
Yeah, yeah. And the conventions were done with us as well.
The conventions were not done with you. I know of at
Yeah,
least
no, they,
one convention that'll have you back anytime you want to do it.
yeah.
You are done with traveling.
I kind of am. I would prefer to be here and work in my little shed on whatever.
I mean, is the
Um,
last, when was the last time you left the state?
Must have been going to New York to do shows. Wasn't that, I think our last shows were Yonkers and Brooklyn, and then the world shut down.
Was that
That
your last
was,
shows in 2020? Was you like
yeah,
February? You did a couple of
something
shows?
like that. Yeah, yeah, early part of the year. And Frank had just had his bypass prior year, the prior summer. So we were kind of doing fewer and fewer
But you were
shows.
at the height of that year. Once you all sort of were doing the Alamo Draft Houses almost exclusively in that final year, right? That you pretty much were kept busy. What,
We
like
were,
3 weeks on, 1 week off? It was getting to be.
yeah, we were out almost every weekend. And plus, we also had a London trip in there. And I think Salt Lake City, we went from Salt Lake City to London to, yeah, Denver. And yeah, it was crazy.
And
It's not a healthy
that's
way to
not
live.
sustainable.
Yeah.
That
Frank
that'll
loves it though. Frank loves the road. He loves staying in hotels. Um, I just I just feel so like lost uh and like trapped in a
Well, you're
hotel.
not seeing, yeah, you're not seeing the best of the place because you're in too fast. On show night, by the time you're out of a show, everything's closed.
Yeah.
You were, I know, how many Alamo Draft House meals did you have?
Oh, very many more than we should have. Uh I liked the first few times we ate there, but it's it's fast prepared food or relatively fast. And well, we were eating a lot of late night meals. We were hitting steakhouses all over the country. I probably helped contribute to Frank's quadruple bypass by going, "Hey Frank, let's go to the steakhouse."
Yeah, or a lot of delis.
A lot of delis, a lot of steakhouses. Yeah, if you look back at some of those pictures of us, we're well fed. A lot of steakhouse meals.
And not a lot of sleep and a lot of travel time.
Yeah.
If
Well, you
if
go
if
out.
the pandemic had not hit, were you already feeling the writing was on the wall to scale it back?
Um, kind of, kind of. Um, but it was, we were going out on a Thursday, coming back on Sunday. That gives you a day or so to recover, and then Wednesday you got to start planning to go out again.
I mean, I know that
Um,
there were a lot of just around the house projects that you just weren't addressing or had the time to address. That
oh
suddenly the
yeah.
pandemic just opened up this DIY cavalcade for you.
Well, I was also building out my studio, which is part of this was like a 2.5 or a 3 car garage, and I carved this into a little studio or office, and then my wife has an office on the other side of the garage, which I made into a one car. And then I built a studio for photography and video and storing all my shit on the other side of the wall. But yeah, that I was building that as we were on the road, and I had it covered in a tarp and keep the weather off while I was gone. But yeah, the pandemic, I was able to finish all of that infrastructure, and so I could have a place to work. Uh, we have a very tiny house, and I need a place to have like saws and drills and paints and things like that.
And just in time for doing the digital streaming version of the Mads are back, the internet gods finally decided to give you somewhat workable internet in
Yeah,
that time
well,
period too.
only as much as I need. Uh, we still have uploading and downloading is still bullshit. I don't know how this works, where this is actually kind of working. I guess it's a low bandwidth kind of thing. I don't know how it works.
I don't know what it does to you out there. The weird arcane internet that you have.
It really is terrible. We'll probably get fiber optic in 2025. But
Oh,
that,
so that's when the Mads are back is coming back
yeah,
full time.
we'll talk. We'll talk. um, that was again. I think you know our timing has always been not anything to do with us, really, but timing wise, being on the road when we were on the road when the Alamo Drafts House, more and more of them are popping up. A lot of independent theaters are looking for programming. They have a budget that they can bring us in. And then that all kind of went away with pandemic. And okay, we were able to do it online until that kind of era has subsided, I think, a little bit from the start of the pandemic to
Right.
now. I think the numbers
People's
have changed.
time in front of a computer is somewhat different than it was,
Yeah, definitely.
and entertainment options.
Oh, there's so much stuff. So much stuff.
But you were doing it on your monthly model. You had a set time to do. Was
Hmm.
it this is the second Tuesday
Yep.
of every
Every
month?
month.
So there was a consistency to it. People planned their months around it. You had a consistent
Hmm.
audience.
Yep.
I mean, it certainly seems like it would have been sustainable. What was the thing that led to deciding, you know what, maybe we need a little break from this?
Needing a little break. I think doing, what did we do? Close to 50 more movies. Also finding movies that are suitable. We're doing a lot of those space movies that are just the same movie over and over and over again. And our audience did decline. We went from height of the pandemic to when we took a pause. Our audience was like half, and I think that's just the nature of the time. Of like you said, people have moved on and are doing other things, and they can go out and be with other people, go out in the world. So a lot of things, it just
But it's still nothing to
trying to
shake a
keep it
stick at
fresh too.
to get 4 years, that many shows. That's not an insubstantial body of work.
No, no, and that's really Chris keeping us going and figuring out how to do all the tech stuff, and um, so it's
Because at the end of the day, you two are two very difficult to corral old men who are
difficult to corral. Yeah, you just call us.
very crotchety, very.
Yes, we're old men. Yes, we have.
You are you. What's great about what I absolutely love about you were the most down to earth, nonplussed person when it comes to just I could take it or leave it. When it comes to doing shows, doing things, you're like yeah, you're very content in the location you're in with the projects you have. I've never sensed that you have like this driving urge to be out there. Like you don't seem to have a an overwhelming craving for attention or to have that attention seeking projects out there. You
Uh,
seem very chill, mellow.
mm, yeah, kind of. I mean, it's nice when it's there. It's nice when the attention's on you, but I don't like seek it out really, I guess. Maybe I got all of that out of my system. I don't know. I still am working on projects that I hope people will watch, but if they don't, I'm kind of okay with that too, because I'm making them to satisfy my own creative needs and not really thinking of financial
Yeah, you
stuff.
seem very low maintenance. You might-
Kind of, yeah. But, give me a project that I can kind of get lost in. Plus, there's just tons of stuff with a house. I mean, every surface in our house needs
so
something.
everything's a project.
Yes, everything is a project. It's hard to do projects when everything's a project
But
because
you
everything's a
do you
project.
do seem to have a tinkerer's personality.
Oh,
No.
definitely. Yeah.
Are you still
Uh,
doing the found art sculptures?
oh, yeah. Yeah. The thing that's behind me there that's out of focus is found art. That's from my LA period. Um, it's in here because there's no room uh, in the studio. The studio has it's a 12 by 18 space where I still have a little bit of paint workshop airbrush station, and then there's a set that I've got that I've been working on over the years to get this project going. That's part of it. Um, so that whole room is like just full of shit, just moving crap around to make room for this thing that I'm building. And
Well,
I was going to shoot in there, but it's like, I got to move all this crap.
have you ever done sort of a gallery showing of your art?
Yeah. Yes. I did once in LA. My house was completely empty and I had a lot of wall space. So I turned that into like an art gallery and catered it and did a really, really huge party.
And
Um,
did you sell the pieces?
I sold maybe half a dozen pieces, most, all to friends. Josh has a couple of them. My therapist at the time bought a one, which proves she is crazy. And
Hey,
then,
that's very supportive. That's
yes,
putting your
yeah,
money where she's basically just
uh,
giving you the money back that you paid.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I thought about that. And then I did a show in college down southern Minnesota about 5 or 6 years ago. Um, but and other people have said, oh, you should bring your stuff to conventions. And it's like, oh, you know how hard that is? That's just like hard. These
Right.
are huge framed pieces. And uh, so I stuck a lot of them in the Frank video that I did 10 or so years ago or more. But they're all just hanging into my house.
Right.
I
You're not
don't,
actively out there trying to sell them. It's not like that's
not,
so you're not making them. This isn't a commercial thing. This is just because
it's because I
you
have to.
enjoy doing it.
Yes, exactly.
And how would
And
you describe sort of the pieces? What is your what is your
um,
artistic expression with that sounded really pretentious. What is your artistic expression with these pieces that you do, Trace?
what am I trying to do? What am I trying to achieve?
What does this say?
They say this looks like a guy had a lot of shit and he stuck it together on a thing. I don't know. I'm kind of inspired by whatever piece of junk I have that drives the direction of the piece. Um, I don't have anything small enough to show, but uh, yeah, I do it for me. I like it. Other people have said they like it. Some people have bought things, but I always thought I would put them up on a website somewhere and show them that way, and I just never have because
Well, I'm sure if you ask, Chris would put together a website for you to sell off those pieces. Has anyone, have you ever had fans discover that you do those pieces and ask you about them?
yeah, one of our more dedicated fans in southern Minnesota came and was very nice and um, came to the gallery where they were being shown. They were up for a long time at this college, but again, there was my friend who got me into the show or got the show for me also picked up all my pieces of art and took them there and hung them. So I didn't really have to do anything, which is what I love.
Yeah.
Uh,
That seems to be a through line through most of this
yeah.
is that, hey, if you set it up, I'll be there. But
Well, just the thought of putting all this stuff in a car and not all of it fits in cars. And it's like last time I moved them, I had to rent a truck. And it's like,
so
too
what was the
hard.
earliest piece? When did do you recall when you put together the first thing that said, oh, well, this is a piece of art I'm doing as opposed to just, this is for fun?
Um, well, I don't know. I've always been like you said, a tinkerer. My mom was a painter. I have a lot of her art around. Um, that she
Is that
was.
oil or acrylic?
This is. It could be acrylic, could be oil. It's hard. There we go. There we go. That's just.
Painted on wood?
It's like hard art board of some kind or something. I don't know what that is. But she was a very uh, serious student of painting, and I think that was also inspiration for all the kids to get into art. Um, oh, here's a. If I can leave the frame for a moment here. Um, Here's a picture of we're at the Guggenheim in New York, and I'm watching my mother admire Andrew Wyeth painting. So I've always liked this picture.
I
That
mean,
little blob, that's my head.
it's also a beautiful composition for a photo.
Yeah, back in the day. Uh,
Was your father
uh,
taking the photo?
More than likely, yeah. Um, but yeah, we're all builders. My brother's a mechanical engineer. My sister uh, paints and does artistic stuff too, and uh, I just can't stop making stuff, building stuff. But the first thing what was the first thing? Boy, I don't know. I made a lot of weird stuff when I was a kid. Um, I covered myself in in um, masking tape, and then carefully peeled it off my body and had a replica of myself in masking tape. Um,
And how long did
Hands,
that
feet.
last?
Oh, not long. It just crunched. I just found, looking for all this stuff, a box of toys from when I was a kid, and there's a mask I had made, an eagle mask that is just disgusting now. It was made with real feathers and paper mache, and it's been in this box for I don't know how long, and it's just gross.
So it's a biohazard. You
It's a
essentially found a
biohazard.
biohazard.
Yeah. Um, but I don't. We were always making stuff, in the house, always drawing or coloring or
So a
sculpting.
very art positive house.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, I don't know what the first thing I would. I don't even know if I have it. But there was. We were just talking about Brits, and I don't know if this is another item. Here it is. I found it again. Um, this is probably another item, I would think. This is
Okay.
because it's a book this time. Um, but heavy influence. We've talked about Python. I have this book that is the film book from Holy Grail, and the cool thing about this book was it's the script. I don't know if you've seen this one. You probably have this one.
Yeah. The
It's all the
shooting.
script pages and drafts and Gilliam sketches and
The book of the
Um,
film.
yeah, Monty Python and the Holy Grail book. I got this in college, and this is when I stopped going to college. I got this book at the bookstore. I went off and sat on a hill and read this thing, pored over it, just absolutely stunned by this as a document, as a great, like,
And
not
you'd
only
already
is it,
seen the film by that point?
oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I'd seen the film. But this is like just a graphic design document. It, like all their stuff, was was so cool. But this was like I never lent this out. People would want to borrow it, but I got
Because
nah.
you knew it would never come back?
It never come back or it'd be damaged. So it's still in really good shape for a book that is, I don't know how many years old.
I mean, that's got to
Um,
be 50, at least 50 years old,
yeah,
or
yeah,
nearly.
that's scary. This I should have brought to Dragon Con and had signed, but who thinks? No one thinks. I don't think.
Well, you could head there this weekend. John is waiting for you, ready to
Yeah.
sign.
For what? Do you know what he's charging for signatures?
Well, it's John, so you probably don't want to know.
It's not Mark Hamill prices.
Oh, I would think it might even be more than Mark Hamill prices. Who knows?
Yeah, probably, probably true.
It is John. So you had mentioned that that was your decision to leave college. Was that,
Yes.
did you actually at that point go, no, I'm done. I'm done with this.
I existed through the remaining classes and then kind of dropped out during every final that I hadn't studied for. I went
When
to,
did you leave for Europe?
that was 78 that I was in school. So 79, the fall of 79.
So you finished school
Well,
ish.
yeah.
You finished that
Uh,
year,
I finished that year, kind of just drizzled out the last few drops of that year.
and then you
Uh,
quite literally joined the circus.
I did. I did. I One of my best friends growing up, known him since kindergarten, went to the Far East and joined an ice show, a Holiday on Ice, and toured with them. Came back that summer and said, "Hey, I had a great time. You should come back." And he went, "Okay." That's as much thought as I gave it. Was okay. So went to Europe with him and just walked in one day and they hired me. Um, it took like 15 minutes. I even hadn't expected to even get a job, but I got lucky and they hired me and I traveled with them for 3 or 4 months.
So what was your official job within
Well,
the
every
show?
town that the show would go to, they would hire 6 local men as helpers because we did everything. We traveled with the show. We put the show up. We put all the lighting grids up. We put all the stage things up. There would be an advance crew that would put the ice floor in for us, so that would be ready, and we just would travel in all these containers on trucks and bring the show in. So I was a local, but I was traveling with the show because,
That
you
sounds
know,
dodgy.
uh, why not? I was making bank rate in all of these different countries. And so I was making more in some cases than the salaried people. Um, so I did a lot of different stuff. I worked with the electricians till they realized that was a bad idea.
Now
I worked,
when did they realize it was a bad idea?
uh, probably pretty quick.
Was there an
They would,
incident
no, they just,
or enough potential for
they could,
incidents that they
yeah, they could see that I was not a good mix. It was also, I couldn't do the technical stuff. I could just do the kind of roustabout kind of
Now, where would
stuff.
you rank it on the sort of scale of Frank using power tools?
A little bit more competent than that. Um, But then, they would move me around. We had a build up period. We were in Strasbourg and we had like a month to kind of rebuild this division's show. There were a lot of props and stuff that were coming in into the shop that we had to, by the end of our tour in Europe, we had to have them all fit into an airline container. So we would get these beautiful props. They had this Cinderella coach, beautiful thing, gilded and fur and all this stuff. And we had to cut like 20 centimeters or 20 inches out of it so it would fit into a container. So we just completely destroyed things that were just works of art.
And the audience couldn't tell the difference.
They couldn't tell the difference. But I worked on Spotlight for a while. There were 6 spotlights, and they were all local hires except for me. And all the cues were given in French, so I had to very quickly learn at least a handful of key words.
Do you still recall what was shouted at you the most?
Uh, you can't do that. That one, it was in English. That was in English. We would test to see if, because one of the things I had to do was hit a clock with, you adjust the aperture so the light
So an
changes
iris in and
size.
out.
Yeah, and I had to hit a clock in this Cinderella thing to illuminate it because it was just painted.
It was a story point.
Yeah, and so I was testing on the tarmac next to the ice, and the guy said, "Don't do that, not during the show." And then, of course, infamously, I worked with the chimpanzee that was in our show,
Whose name was?
Mickey the chimp, who played badminton on ice skates. So he had this little kilt, little Scottish kilt, and he skated around. And he also jumped through a fire hoop. And one of my other jobs was to work with the human that jumped, the barrel jumper and the fire hoop jumper guy. And I would soak his fire hoop with gasoline before his act. And I said, "Well, how much should I put on?" He goes, "As much as you can." This is gasoline, real gasoline. And one night I had to soak the chimpanzee's fire hoop because he did the same kind of act. His gimmick was he could skate up to the hoop and turn it on because there was a little like a piezo switch spark thing. And the night that I figured what was good for the barrel jumper is good for the chimp barrel jumper. So I just put a lot of gasoline in his hoop too. And it goes up, lights it, and it goes, wow, giant flames. And he skates right off into his dressing room and slams the door. So then there was his act. So I ruined his act.
It's good to know that he was present enough in this act that I'm sure was not his life choice. If he had made a life choice, was to be this ice skating chimpanzee in a traveling circus.
Yeah.
With
We would
hoops.
we would listen to him in the yelling at his trainer. Mickey, now I don't care if you ate your costume. You are going on. It's coming through the wall.
Well, it's a good thing that those things don't happen anymore. You make a good case for why maybe we don't need animals in circuses and performances.
I don't think, chimpanzees should not be in show business. They keep putting them in. They're taking jobs away from actors.
Yeah. Well, and now it's special effects jobs.
Yeah. So that was my stint in.
Well, considering it's a good thing Mickey doesn't hold grudges after what you did.
Mickey's probably still alive.
I would think there's a fair chance that Mickey's still alive.
If he was, although he was going to retire and his little brother Bobo was going to take over the act. And then I heard something about the trainer stopped working with chimps and had moved on to penguins. I don't know what the act
probably a
was.
slightly lesser chance of mauling.
Yeah. Oh, Mickey he would look at me, and at that time, I didn't really know how like vicious a chimp can be. Like, we've seen in subsequent years of like chimps being like mauling people, but
Yeah, yeah. No, that could have been a very bad thing for you if Mickey had
yes,
decided to exact revenge for your
yeah,
flaming hoop.
he would stare at me backstage, and
So in that moment, you knew he remembered.
oh yeah, oh yeah, he knew who had did it. Chimps are very smart. They're so like us.
Is there any skill that you acquired during that period that you still regularly use?
I worked with a welder for a couple of weeks and I refused to learn how to weld because I thought it was going to be a horrible, horrible job. But they found one even worse, which was cutting all the metal bits that the welder needed to assemble various things, curtain racks and costume racks and things. So that was a pretty horrible, you know, in this wet warehouse in Strasbourg, sawing bits of metal constantly. And
So the lesson you learned was to say yes to the first thing because the second thing could be worse.
yeah, I wish I'd learned how to weld back then because it's a very handy thing.
The now going to all of these different cities, what would you do on your days off? Were you going into museums? Were you going and
Oh,
exploring the cities?
uh, if we had an extended stay in a town, like we were in Strasbourg for a couple of weeks, but we were working every day. We were in Amsterdam for a while, and then we could go to like the Rijksmuseum and things like that. But a lot of it was quick turnaround stuff, and we just had to keep working.
Do you remember which
Uh,
city had the best food? Or
Amsterdam had pretty darn good. I remember cream of asparagus soup that was really good.
have you had it since then? Have you ever tried to recapture that?
I'd tried to replicate it over the years, and I can't
Just
do it. And England had really good food if you weren't eating English food. Like their Asian
oh, like
cuisine
having
was,
curry or
yeah, yeah. But the bed and breakfast I was staying in from time to time, which just, that breakfast, you've seen it.
the English
It's,
breakfast.
yeah, the English breakfast. It's like,
You don't like just a slice of
yeah,
tomato
yeah, a slice of tomato with burnt on it,
and some beans and
some toast with burnt on it.
burnt is
Although
a
I did have,
flavor. Burnt is
I
a
did,
flavor.
it is. I had great fish and chips in Brighton. Uh, I remember standing out in the cold and rain and having fish and chips by the ocean. So I never had as good a fish and chip.
And you went back and did London within the past 5 years. So did you try and did you get fish and chips when you went back to London with Frank?
Well, everything had changed in those decades.
I mean, it's
The
all
pub,
corporate pubs now, so it's all
right? Exactly.
basically just fast food.
Yeah, it's you get the same thing at every pub. Um, but I had roast beef one time that was pretty darn good, and Frank was impressed because my potatoes came with a side of potatoes.
I mean, there's a certain thing that will impress Frank.
It's food.
The and we didn't even get into our food tales, but we are going to get into your last two items. So here's the thing.
Last two items here.
So my
Oh, my
question before
list.
these
Hmm.
is if we were talking about ranking, we've sort of been sort of loose with this, but if you were to choose between these last two items, is one that feels definitively to be the number one between the two that you care about or has more attachment or meaning to you than the other.
Hmm.
Do you feel that looking at the last two items you have, that there's one that would definitely be the number one?
Yes, and it's the
Okay.
one I didn't bring here. I'll
Okay.
have to run and go. I'll have to run and get the last one.
Okay. So your number two item then.
My number two item. This is we did vintage audio. I have to step out of.
Yep.
Uh, this is one of the like series that I absolutely love. This is Hollywood, The Pioneers, which was a documentary from BBC, done in the late 70s, I believe, narrated by James Mason, this is VHS, so the kids remember how these work. It's all on YouTube now. I think you can find it quite easily, but it's absolutely the best, most inspiring documentary about, well, this is silent movies, but about Hollywood that I think I've ever seen. The music is by Carl Davis, which is absolutely stunning, heart wrenching, and nostalgic compositions. They have interviews with some of the remaining silent film stars. These were all shot in the late 70s, so they're all still pretty coherent. People like Louise Brooks and the stunt people that worked with Keaton and a lot of
Enough still around to make that viable to
yeah,
have their
really
participation in
interesting
it.
conversations. And James Mason narrating it is just like, you know,
I mean, that's got
frosting
to
on the
add a
cake.
whole level of entertainment onto it alone.
Uh, so I have this, I have the cassette, and I haven't gotten rid of it because they'll never release this on DVD because of all the rights issues with all the various, I guess, music and studios
The
and
states and
whatever. Um, so I have this on VHS. I also have the record album that goes with this, the companion that they released, and the book. Um,
so the record album. So this is about the silent film era.
yes,
So is it
yes,
just James Mason's narration? What?
yeah. It's Kevin Brownlow who wrote,
Oh,
the
okay, yeah.
parade's gone by, and um, uh, so yeah, the book, the companion book for this, and then I had a weird encounter of when I was in London in the late 70s, walking into, I forget which museum it was, but they had an exhibit for, I think, the American Film Institute on Hollywood, the pioneers. Only it extended it more into more contemporary films too. When you walked into the gallery, hanging from the ceiling with a shimmering pool effect was William Holden body suspended from the ceiling, and he did I guess, kind of narrated some of that
Also
as
disturbing
you're
imagery.
greeted. Hmm?
Somewhat disturbing imagery as well.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, but very cool and very. I have the
striking.
program for that somewhere. Yeah, so this whole thing, uh, the film or the documentary, and the coincidence of running into an exhibit that was linked to it, finding the book and the album, and if you watch this and you like silent film, it's just such an incredible document that just brilliant that they put these people on film to interview them.
And what's
Uh,
the? Is there any particular moment in it that still stands out?
the music, the opening music for this show is like kind of makes me weep every time I hear it. Uh, just very nostalgic, I guess. And this would come on late at night in Minneapolis, before television actually went off the air at night. They would show this. I don't know who was buying programming for our local station, but they also had the Kenny Everett show. I don't know if you've seen a lot of
Yeah.
that. It's like, who is this guy? He's this really funny DJ guy. I had no idea anything about his history or any of that stuff, but the Kenny Everett video show.
What a weird pickup.
Yeah,
And
for our
also,
market.
I'm surprised that was even licensed to the U.S. Like, what a negotiation that must have been at the time, because
Yeah,
you would have to get prints of it.
yeah. It'd have to be film. But I remember that's where I was introduced to Kenny Everett. Um, another rabbit hole Brit uh, and then learned later of his relationship with Queen and well, not the band, but uh,
Oh, so there were various relations. That whole
yeah,
scene. Kenny Everett was part of that whole scene
yeah, yeah,
of that whole music scene in the 70s and into the 80s and comedy. I mean, he's one of those people that filters through a lot of different stories
yeah,
of that
yeah.
era.
And the video show was really kind of avant-garde at the time uh, for our little crazy, local station to carry that.
I mean, that would have
Um,
been around the same time that you were starting to see like SCTV
oh yeah,
and all
yeah,
those come in. So what a
yep,
just a unique time of experimentation and sort of a postmodern takeover of TV by the people who grew up with TV
yeah, exactly, yeah.
and were
Yeah,
riffing on that as a medium.
we had SCTV the late night before it was NBC. Um,
Yeah, the
that
Muppet Show was doing that same sort of
Yep,
deconstruction of the variety show in that period. Saturday Night Live obviously doing its thing. So they were all of these sort of, and certainly it eventually found its way into what mysteries this filtering reappropriation or appropriation of all of these different pop culture elements
yeah.
and remixing of pop culture that all of these things were doing at the time because you were a generation that grew up on that pop culture.
And taking an irreverent approach to, we had so many decades of just stuff that was a remnant of radio comedy. You turn on the Dean Martin show and they're doing some kind of unfunny sketch, and then Monty Python rolls around and you go, "Holy shit! What is this? This is not American comedy."
Yeah, this isn't a bit on the Dean Martin show.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've seen that. Is it Dom DeLuise and
Oh,
Durning?
doing the cheese
Yeah,
sketch?
or the book sketch. Do you have Tale of Two Cities? Oh, yeah, but it's by this. Yeah, very unfunny. Uh,
But they also did the cheese sketch.
did they do the cheese
Oh
sketch too?
yeah, which is even more sort of. I think it was Charles Durning was maybe in that sketch.
Could have been the same show. That
But the fact that they were importing Python sketches,
yeah,
thinking, well, the audience will have seen it here. The audience that was watching their show is that older audience. But
yeah.
hey,
It's just
it's material. We
yeah,
can do this material, and it's safe enough for the audience content wise, and it's not as absurd as where Python could go. But it's curious that that's what they would. But it's the same thing as when you'd see Bob Hope walking in a Beatles wig. It's just it doesn't feel
yeah, yeah.
sincere.
Yeah, or sincere, authentic, or funny. Just like embarrassing. Uh, but yeah, it was a very, very cool era to get that early British stuff over, and of course then Python, which you know was the pinnacle of all of that.
Yeah, Python rolling into Faulty Towers, and I mean just that massive influx of PBS just sort of like, well, here's basically the BBC of the USA. Here's
Yeah,
all of these shows.
yeah, yeah. No, it was a Python coming here was life saving for so many people I know. Just absolutely like, oh wow, what is this? And it still holds up. A lot of it still holds up.
Well, I mean, it was certainly, pre SNL, pre all of that. When that arrived, that was the only comedy really that was attempting to speak to that young generation of just with that absurdity of certainly a generation that had plenty of things to feel that life was absurd about.
Yeah. Well, National Lampoon Radio Hour, we had that. I know that was a cultural point for me. I still have all my VHS cassette, not VHS, audio cassettes where you had to put your tape recorder up against the radio. That was the only way you could record something.
Same with TV shows.
Yeah, yeah. I have a lot of those audio tapes, but that was how'd we get down that road? Kenny Everett, he's to blame.
Yeah. Not the first person to say that. Uh, so, would you like to go get your number one item?
Yeah, give me 2 minutes.
I will give you 2 minutes, and
I suppose you can pause this. I'll
I'll
be right
well,
back.
or I'll plug all the wonderful things that you do that
Yes,
people should go find.
be right back.
So while Trace is getting that item, then I will reiterate: you can still go find all of the Mads Are Back shows that he and Frank Conniff do. Go to Dumb Industries. I believe it's dumbindustries.com. You'll be able to get all of those shows. There's a lot of them. And they all have special Q&A guests. I was one of them at one point. A lot of great folks there, and the shows that he and Frank did are funny, and certainly you can find Mystery Science Theater 3000 out there, and should. So there's so many wonderful things. He'll plug it again, and I'll make him plug it when he comes back. But he also did a children's book, Silly Rhymes for Belligerent Children, which he did, which has beautiful illustrations from Len Peralta, which you can find, I think, on Trace's website. I'll ask him when he comes back, but that's another great Trace thing that you can pick up and should pick up. And hey, I'll plug real quick. If you enjoy this, please hit that like, subscribe button, the things that people say to do on YouTube. Leave reviews, leave comments. That's all great and swell. You can become a patron of mine by going to patreon.com/Ken Plume, at which point you will get access to some of the stuff we were talking about earlier, like the those Mystery Science Theater bits of archival ephemera, like that Planet Hollywood presentation that we talked about, as well as some quiz shows that Trace has been a part of that I've done over the years with a lot of great guests. You'll find those as patron exclusives on there, and some of the interviews and such. So it looks like I was able to fill the time for Trace to return. I feel so good. It's almost like I was doing an episode of Just a Minute. You the scale looked very odd. It looked like someone was holding a cardboard, a little paper cutout of you in front of camera.
Yes, they could. I could be replaced by cardboard very easily.
It's great. I love the fact that the camera you've got now is so cinematic and makes my high frame rate camera look so dinky.
Well, this is a Canon something or other. What is it?
DSLR.
EO, yeah, it's a DSLR.
Maybe I need to do this. Let me see if I can. There. Is that somewhat more?
Yeah. I mean, I have.
Well, now I just feel like I'm haunted.
I can change my lighting a little bit, but this is the only example I have tonight of any art that I've made over the last few years. I made this back in the 80s, I think, because I needed a place. As I have cats, as you know, and cats shed. Trying to get this sold. So I needed a place to keep all the cat whiskers that I've accumulated over the years. I got to get out of here again, don't I?
Yep.
So this is an ear that I sculpted. It's still losing hair. And all the cat whiskers I've collected over the last 35 years. How do I get this to focus?
So how many cats are represented in that?
Oh, there we go. Oh, don't look at me. Look at that. Look at that.
There we go.
There we go. That is an ear that was sculpted in plasticine, and then I I poured lead into the mold because lead's so safe to use. And then I just had this, I just collect, I kept collecting cat whiskers, something I found that a lot of people do with that have cats, and they have like probably equally as much as I have here. That's probably 30 cats going back to the 80s, mid 80s. I had a cleaning lady in LA. She would out find cat whiskers and give them to me.
Knew that she had to save them for you.
But the lead, we used to go to gas stations, and in the olden days, to balance your tire, they would put weights, lead weights, on the rim of the tire. And the gas stations, when they would replace these weights, they just throw them in a bucket. And we'd go, "Hey, can we have your lead weights?" And they go, "Sure, here you go, a bunch of lead." Because back in the day, lead was good for children.
I mean, you were also melting plastic and you
Krylon or whatever, plastics. So we would melt them down in our little basement workshop and make stuff out of them. Scuba weights. I made scuba weights because I had this little mold that you could make lead weights for your scuba, your
were,
weight belt.
were you diving? Did you dive?
Oh yeah, yeah. Um, I got certified in '74, I think.
So
But
did you just dive in the lake?
yes, yes. Uh, I got certified in Lake in Minnesota, but my parents had a place in Florida. Then we would visit there, and I would go diving off the coast of Fort Lauderdale, or in the Keys.
When was the last time you dove?
Um, a couple of years ago, my friend Jeff Stonehouse, who lives nearby, said, "Hey, let's go
Brilliant
dive."
cinematographer.
Yeah, shot the movie, the Mystery Science movie. He'll often call me up and go, "Hey, let's go do this weird thing." So a couple of years ago, we rented gear and went to this little lake in Wisconsin and goofed around. Um, my latest adventure with Jeff was a couple of weeks ago. We went because there is a trapeze setup near.
Hold on. I just want to preserve the start of this anecdote with because there's a trapeze set up. Go on.
We've for years said, "Hey, we should go try and do trapeze, learn how trapeze works."
Now I'd love that this was a runner too, that there was years of discussion. Was it
And
just
he would,
finding the right moment to do it?
well, it's like I'd go, "Oh, I just broke my hand." And he goes, "Well, you have to catch me." And I go, "Well, I can't trust this hand. I broke," or he'd be ill or whatever. So a couple of weeks ago, he made it happen. He got us in to the trapeze school. Literally, we drive by the highway and there's a cornfield. There's like a trapeze in the middle of the cornfield with a net and the whole thing. And
Listen, the overall picture of Minnesota that has been formed over the years, and we're going to see a lot of over the next
oh
couple of
yes,
months, is just this. Again, the Coens were not exaggerating, right?
no, no, uh,
It's this
yeah,
little cultural bubble.
and um, just when you think you found the weirdest thing, there's something else that's even
So
weirder.
the trapeze were they retired circus folk? Were they
Uh,
former gymnasts? What was the
I don't know how they started, but now they have like a camp
Are they like a
for,
training center for like the
yeah,
Olympics?
yeah, like a training
Okay.
center for anybody that wants to come and take a class in trapeze. Or um, they also have like horse things and day camps and things. And
So did you just do
uh,
like one session, or were you two driving up there a couple of times?
no, we had an inn that we could get in after their class, and so all these kids, all these little um, kids in spandex, and they're all going zip and zip and zip and zip and doing all these cool things and flipping over. And then we get in there, the old guys, um,
You signed some
and
waivers.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Here, sign this. Um, and I have a fear of heights. I don't like heights. And so there was you crawl up the ladder. We were in, like safety belts and harnessed and control wires. They had us, we
Yeah, but
weren't
if
going to
you're
get
already
hurt.
leery about heights, that's already setting you up to be unsettled.
I hadn't thought about it at the time until I got to the top of the ladder on the little platform. And then I went, oh,
And you're in cornfields,
yeah.
right? So you're just seeing sort of into horizon lines at that point, right?
It's not quite that bleak. It's there are some hills and
But
things
you're
and
seeing some
landscapes.
distance from your
If I
perch.
if I had the presence of mind to look in the distance, yes. But they took us through like a fairly brief ground school, and this guy was a really good instructor and told us, first we did all the moves just on the ground with a trapeze that was, over a mat. And he said, okay, we're going to do this. I'm going to be shouting directions at you. You got to listen really close. Um, and then we crawled up onto the thing and held on to the bar. And then you jump off and you swing. And that's all I could do was jump off and swing. I couldn't do any of the flips or any of the other stuff. And
Or transfer to another bar
yeah, we didn't have to do any of that stuff.
or
This was
catch
just,
Jeff.
I didn't have to catch Jeff. No.
Did he
Uh,
ask again? Did he ask the trainers like, "Hey, we're going to be catching today?"
that takes a different skill. That takes coordination that we wouldn't
So
we
so
don't
what
have.
was the feeling in that moment? You're there swinging, you're up high, you're doing the trapeze dream that you and Jeff had talked about for years.
He was great. He did more than I did. He was able to put his legs up over the bar and hang from his knees, basically. And I was like, they said, okay, now do you want to flip over? And I went, no. They go, okay, now do you want to do the no? Okay, well, you're coming down.
So what were
And
you
then,
fixing your eyes on during that? Were you looking
um,
around or were you because you're already leery of those
no, I
heights?
was I was looking. I don't know where I was looking. I wasn't conscious of a lot of things going on at that time.
Looking to a future you were doubting at that moment?
Yeah, but it was thrilling and very exciting, and that's the kind of adventures that we get into. Um,
But now what's going to replace the trapeze dream?
oh, we'll think of something. I've gone whale watching with Jeff and scuba diving in Hawaii with him. Uh, and he's now that we're both kind of retired, or he is. There's always some kind of Huck Finn adventure to have on the river.
But you'll always involve him. Is he on your mind for your
Oh yeah,
project that's percolating?
yeah. He's come over. He's seen what I've done and brought in a stop motion animator and storyboard artist that he's been trying to get us together for a long time. So we finally made that happen about a month ago. Um, but yeah, he's a great guy and very yes and very enthused about just about everything.
I'm glad you had that trapeze moment. I'm glad that worked out.
It was fun. I would like to like once again maybe have upper body strength because it's like, wow, I did this and I don't feel sore until the next day, where it's like every muscle that hasn't been used since I was a child is all just,
You're feeling all of them.
oh yes. Yeah.
So
So
what is it going to take to get you and Frank out there?
Frank, maybe. I don't know.
You know, he's going to be coming to the Twin Cities, I'm sure, again soon.
If he doesn't move to the Twin Cities, he was talking
Oh, is he
about that.
contemplating the moving
He
back?
said if his rent went up, he would think about moving. But I don't know what his status is.
But I'm sure he would move closer to the city than
Oh yeah,
to
yeah.
the sticks that you exist in.
He'd be a city guy, I'm sure. Um,
He's a walker. He's
you can walk here. You can walk in the country.
But he's a walker two places. If you're walking where you're at, you're just walking nowhere.
Well, we're
There's
walking to the
nature.
end of the road and back.
There's yeah.
Or yeah.
You
No,
walk
there's
to get the mail,
that's our destination.
and then you walk back, and then you
It's
complain about the deer.
that's the highlight of the day. The deer are I'm not as pissed off at them at the moment. Um, there've been some little baby deer this spring, and you know,
Are they
I would have
are they melting your heart about
they
deer?
yes, I would have a lump of coal for a heart if it wasn't because I kept finding them. I'd be walking around, in the little wooded area we have. I go, there's a deer, a baby deer right there, like a newborn deer. So
Just
I guess the mom will leave them
you.
if if they can't move, if they're not strong enough to move yet. They kind of hide them, which
And
is
then go out and forage and
yeah, come back and regurgitate. Or is that a bird? Birds regurgitate. I don't know how deer
you know
work.
what? No one's going to correct us in this moment right now. Let's build out whatever
Yeah.
whatever nature documentary you want to build right now. Yeah, they call it baby deering. You've heard
Baby deering.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the ear, are those fastened, the hairs into the ear? Are they just
They are
loosely,
held in place with
like wax or
glow in the dark silly putty. And I'm running out of room in the ear. I'm going to have to. I have several test tubes full of hair or whiskers that haven't made the cut.
so are you going to craft a second ear?
Probably not.
The
Some of
matching
these
the
need.
other side of the head?
Um, I don't know. I did such a good job on this one. I probably couldn't replicate it. And it's
Well, not with that attitude.
well, of course. Um, there's another piece. I don't know where that went. That needs some whiskers stuck on it, as all pieces need whiskers stuck on them.
If you were to craft an ear again, would you
Mhm.
use lead again, or would you
Probably not.
use the modern materials available to you?
Probably not. I do still have a lot of lead left, but I use it as ballast to keep things from falling over.
So are you wearing a belt right now?
Yes, I am. Keeps me in the chair. Yeah. Uh, no, I've heard that lead's not good for you.
No, probably not.
Go with that.
Pewter's still good, right? Have you ever worked with pewter?
I have never worked with pewter. Is there tin in there or something like that?
I think sure. Somebody's
lead and tin
watching and yelling at us right now.
You guys don't know your metals.
But you also have a 3D printer, so you could print out. Someone's modeled an ear. You can print out an ear.
Oh, I'm sure someone has. I've only done. Let's see.
You could print out a Spock ear.
I could. I only did this guy. This is like dumb.
That's the figurine you were talking about.
13, whatever it is, 13. But yeah, articulated. Let me get a better one. Experimenting in printing the same thing, only larger.
Scaling up.
Yeah, so there it is. Dummy 13, I call it. I think it's called. I think it says 13 there.
You resisted getting a 3D printer for the longest time.
And then I print dumb stuff.
That's what you do with a 3D printer. That's
well,
I'm surprised you haven't printed out any of the diorama pieces for your Frankensteins or anything like that yet.
I built those out of foam. I can't move the camera, but there's one over there I built out of foam. This was a fun 3D project of building a mechanism that's an eye thing, It's all out of focus, but yeah.
Oh, neat. So you have the just open and shut on the eyelids?
That, and then the eyes move back and forth, and they go up and down.
And it's all mechanical control?
It's all servos.
Oh, okay. So it's supposed to be servo articulated.
Yeah. And it's all Also printed out. Ooh, I broke that. I also printed out the little mechanism that makes these work, and it wired up an Arduino, and none of it works.
Is that intended for the project, or is that just for fun?
Yes. No, this is another puppet that I'm working on. I went, oh, it'd be cool if the eyes were like this, and so I went online and or on YouTube and found this guy that had designed all the parts, and here's the files, and I have to go back through my electronics and see where I failed to make it work. But
You didn't fail. You just delayed success.
there you go. There you go. But it's really cool mechanism because the eyes, move and the blink all with just little, a little like a joystick thing.
So is it a one-handed control to do it?
Yeah, one-handed control. You can
That's
blink with
brilliant.
your trigger and I forget how it works. There's a joystick on the top to make stuff move, and then you can blink. Um, so it's pretty cool. Go on YouTube and look for puppet eyes, or you'll find them. I'm just stunned with all the stuff that you can
I
find
told you
files
there's
for.
just it's so much out there, and so many people are doing things and fulfilling dreams of things that they wish they had to print
It's
out.
it's really amazing. And I couldn't get they were back ordered on filament because everyone's printing out cosplay stuff. And
Oh, so thanks, Dragon Con.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, that I
So when are
never
you
thought
doing
I'd
your
go that way.
life-size Robbie the Robot? When are you printing that?
Uh,
It's doable. I
uh,
bet someone's done it. We have a
uh, you know,
life-size Jabba the Hutt out there. Anything's possible.
well, now the print beds are. My brother has a 3D printer that can print a meter cubed, so you could print your own R2D2 in one piece.
So is he
Uh,
doing that for you now? Are you
no, no, no. He's actually doing things that are important with a 3D printer.
I think printing out an R2D2 is pretty darn important, but
It is. It is. I mean, I'm practical. That's not even the. Um,
how different would it have been in the Mystery Science Theater days to have had access to something like a 3D printer?
oh, it would have helped enormously. But back in those days, we could still find all the parts we needed for the robots in thrift stores. Or we did start casting some of Servo's parts out of resin and stuff, but when we needed a lot of puppets. Um, but
Well,
there's
do you
some
remember the
stuff that
thing that
doesn't.
disappeared first, the thing that became hardest to find first? Or was that
Uh,
after you?
Soap dish was harder to find, but uh, we were only using the soap dish as a, vacuform buck, because you need completely hollow inside that cowl to get the eyes full motion. I have printed out someone's file for that soap dish part cowl, but it's way too thick um, for for my liking. Uh, Not the kind of crows I build. Uh,
Your artisanal crows.
yeah, but that was I needed the shoulder parts and couldn't find those anywhere. And I've got one original off of a real lamp and another one that's been cast in resin, and that's so heavy that it's like,
Oh,
I
it's
can't
just
even do it.
solid resin that's cast in?
Yeah, yeah.
So that would have been
So
better printing off with like a filament printer.
yeah, yeah. But just a 3D printer, I got great results, and um, so that saved me like a week of hand carving or whatever I was thinking of doing. But it's. I thought doing this project, oh, I'll do a lot at once and then give them to friends that I've told over the years I'll give you one, and they all know I lied. So, but
Maybe
I
they all
have.
kept hope alive and
eh,
trusted and believed in you in the process and
Well,
knew
I
that.
need more parts, but I think the new show consumed all the remaining robot parts Because didn't they sell them or give them away or something?
I wouldn't
Um,
think they would have given them away. That doesn't
but
sound like something they would have done.
yeah, so I have enough to put this one last one together.
Well, now
So it's
that seems sadly final. I don't like the sound of how that's being framed.
well, until I find parts. I know people have a stash. You can go on eBay and there was, I think, for a couple $100, all the parts to make your own row. And servo is a little easier. Um, Not as many parts.
Yeah, but I mean, some of those things that were so commonplace, like even that gumball machine finally went out of production.
Yeah,
So that's becoming scarcer to
yeah.
find.
The money barrel was always a problem finding another one of those. The money leveler bank, whatever it was called. Um, but there's some pretty good.
And the trains were always vacuum forms.
Yeah, yeah. And the ones on the show always look crappy. You know, the people have refined them more and spent more
Well, I mean,
time.
people don't understand the camera is very forgiving
Yeah.
for those, also perfect paint jobs. No, I mean, how,
Oh no. The paint was always a problem. So
well, the paint's not even made anymore. I mean, that the Crow was what the lime gold testers is what it, didn't they
yep,
discontinue the lime gold?
yep, they did. I
But it's a big difference. I mean, anyone who's Spain, that's one when I was doing that janky Crow for that Crow versus Crow panel. I intentionally didn't use the lime gold and went with the straight
mhm.
gold, and it's a huge difference in how that color plays. Like
Yeah, yeah,
it's not right when you use a straight gold, that it's
yeah.
not the right color.
I consulted the fandom, the internet, on what people are using now because you can't get that color, and they all use like a Krylon bright gold metallic, I think, or something similar to that. And it's not. It doesn't have that. It doesn't have the lime. It doesn't have the lime in it.
Yeah, it's sort of it makes it a warmer gold.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but I have enough for one. I've saved through the years. I've saved enough lime gold paint.
There
Um,
must be an aftermarket. Someone's sitting on. I know when they were discontinuing, a
yeah,
lot of people went out and bought
yeah,
everything up that they could. Although, how long does the spray paint? Because I know they sold it in the mini cans,
right,
and obviously they
right.
sold it in those little jars.
Hmm.
How long does that oil-based paint last?
Well, if it's in a container and there's nothing, I mean, it's pressurized. There's nothing unless it
Nothing that's
leaked,
going
I
to do. I mean,
guess.
because obviously latex will, or not latex, the uh, acrylic will separate
Yeah,
after a certain amount of time.
you have to really, really agitate it to get it to mix really well. And I'm using it as a top coat, so I'll do a base coat in that gold, and then go back over it so that I don't have to build up all the layers of lime gold. I can have at least a gold base to come back over.
I wonder if you
Uh,
could mix the gold with lime with
Probably.
the
Yeah.
green and just airbrush it.
Yeah.
Would that mix and then make up a
Uh,
batch of it that way?
it could be. Could be.
Mr.
That would,
Tester, if you're out
yeah.
there and you
Yeah. Or just take it to an auto paint specialist and have it mixed. Um, but seems like a lot of work. Uh,
well, they must have done something for the new show because they discontinued the lime gold long before the new show started.
yeah, quite a long time. Um,
So
I don't know what those are made out of. I don't. Um,
bitterness and disappointment.
yes, yes. Uh, but that's been an interesting project to go back and go, what did I do? Well, here, let me grab it.
Yep.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, I'm just gonna plug everything again. I mean, I plugged all the great stuff that Trace does and has done, but I'll say again, go to Dumb Industries, go find everything Mads are back that you can watch everything that Trace and Frank have done. Oh, he's back.
Oh, I'm wearing glasses. Okay, I don't need those. Where are my headphones? Where are the headphones?
There's nothing as great as the moment of, oh, I'm already wearing glasses.
I know, and I'm wearing them. So the way I build these now is because this head's so heavy, and this is by no means finished, but this will come off because it's keyed and slotted. And then this bit, you can see where it's got some more, like, a lot of room in there, for the eyes
To swing up,
to
swing down.
swing up and back and
Because
forth.
otherwise, when that original one with the soap dish, you basically had what, about that much movement, just sort of a little bit up and down before it would
Well, with
hit the top of
the
the soap
original
dish.
soap dish, they were just glued to the soap dish.
Oh, so there was no articulation in that
No, the
original. It was,
KTMA, there was no articulation.
oh geez. I don't even,
So
but again, that's the beauty of puppets. You read in so much movement that isn't there.
right. So this
People
is
still think the
all,
Muppets blink.
that's right. They don't. They don't need to. They don't
No,
need to. So so this is all so it can be stored into a case, all the parts, you know, nest, or because this is just a giant anvil to hold on to. So I've made it so it's, it, that just plugs in. And then this has always been the hardest and heaviest piece.
because of that
That just,
metal cage on it.
yeah, that just snaps into place. And so it doesn't wiggle too much. Obviously, I've still working on it because tape, tape. Nobody tapes.
So is that the E pin, the original
This is
Empire?
that's the one you sent me. Yeah,
So now
it's hard to
that
show.
was curious about those in finding those because I found a whole set of them. Was
Hmm.
I guess that was the original release where they had a much thicker wall? Because didn't you have an
Yeah.
issue as they got cheaper and cheaper, the walls became thinner and there'd be a curling that would
Yes. Yeah.
happen?
Yeah. This one's a little thin, but it's still not as, like, some of them are translucent. The walls are so thin. It's like you didn't put any plastic in the mold, dude.
Yeah, it's basically
So
a balloon.
yeah. So yeah, this you sent me two of these pins, and
Yes, because
then
I think
this
you were going to try
is,
and cast off the pin too,
yeah.
because
Um
it was so unique to find that original,
yeah. I
much
don't know if
thicker.
anyone's 3D printed the pin yet.
I mean, you got a perfect one for someone to scan off of and have a perfect representation of that original pin.
You would think. And
Because I know
scanners are
those
getting.
went away even before the Sci-Fi Channel era, because they were using the Crown versions of them
Oh,
that have
that's
the Crown
right.
logo, which was the whatever
Yeah.
company took over for it.
Yeah. Was that the same company? Just
I think because Empire, I think they just went to a
oh.
crown instead of the stylized E.
Mm.
But I know that yeah, they would had I think it was Bees would know about that they had run out of
Oh, yeah.
those E pins.
Yeah. I'm
Thanks
supposed to
to a
fix.
lot of Planet Hollywood crows that
Yeah. Where are those now? In Malaysia or someplace? I think there's still one Planet Hollywood somewhere, or there was until recently.
I think there's a handful, but it's certainly not what it was. But
No,
again, those did the bot that you donated even make it into the Minneapolis Planet
no,
Hollywood?
no. I never saw one. Never saw one. Um, and Alamo Drafthouse, when it opened here in Minneapolis, they were supposed to do a MST themed display or something, and that never happened, uh, which was probably for the best. But
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't get permission.
it's a complicated world. It's very complicated.
Yeah, it's ridiculously complicated.
Yeah,
It's
it,
also ridiculously complicated.
it really is. It really
So,
is.
so what can you talk about that you're doing now? So just to be clear, Madzerback's not over.
It's not over. We'll probably do like a quarterly show. Really dependent on finding the right movies. Because we have gone through almost every movie. We'll need to go back and do some repeats of the Mystery Science era shows. Yeah, that's still there. We're talking about doing a live show in Minneapolis at the Riverview. We're trying to find time when that'll work for everybody. Um, I just started doing this project with John Jennings, who's a puppeteer, has worked for Disney and the Muppets. And this is a project that he started, and it's called Trace and Timmerick. And supposedly we play partners. Not supposedly we play supposed partners in a writing duo. So we're always trying to think of a concept to write, mostly argue. But one of those is complete and is up on YouTube, I believe. They're just a short little video. John and I worked together on Vermin, which was Gordon Smooter's puppet project from, oh man, how old? 5 or 6 years ago?
It's got to be.
It's got to be.
I mean, it's certainly pre-lockdown.
I think that's available to see somewhere, but I don't know. And Smooter and his gang also did TV, Transylvania Television, which I think is available somewhere. But anyway, that's where I know John from. And I want to get him involved in this project I'm working on now that requires some good puppeteering. So,
which you're being super vague on, but people hopefully will find out soon enough if things come together on it.
Soon enough. Yeah. Yeah. Things are coming together, making contacts, meeting people, trying to be friendly, trying to work well with others.
Oh,
try to go out in the world.
If that's the threshold, never mind. Why bother?
Exactly.
Other people aren't worth it. That's what I've found. Just other people are not worth it.
My father-in-law used to say, "People are no damn good," and it's like, yeah. Divided into camps.
So it's wonderful and unique to see the evolution and persistence of you working with Frank. What do you think makes you and Frank so compatible when in many ways you were very different as people?
Maybe that's it. We both have the same appreciation of those classic comedies and comedy performers that I don't know. You don't question success. You try to replicate it. You can't. It's lightning in a bottle or two bottles full of lightning.
Is it a surprise to you that this is where that you've done this body of work now to this point? And it exited your life. This whole thing you were off doing other things, you were writing other things, you were in LA, and then when you left LA, you were back in Minnesota, but you coming back to doing this type of thing.
The thing I told you I would never do again.
You did specifically say that. You were very, very adamant about that was the end.
I think you were telling me, oh, did you know that Mike's doing a riffing thing? And I went, I don't want to, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that if
I don't feel comfortable doing that. Why do
Yeah.
that? I think you said something like, why not just watch the movie? Why?
I was wrong. It's so easy. I mean, working with Frank is pretty easy. He's really skilled joke writer and performer, and we don't have a lot of stupid arguments about stuff.
You're
We're
both
pretty
very
agreeable.
low maintenance
Yeah,
as people. As long as the food is scheduled at the right time.
the
You're
food is
both
very
Very low
critical
maintenance.
to our process. But yeah, we're like, ah, you want to do this? Yeah, that sounds okay. Not like analyzed to death or complicated to make it more uh, complicated.
You're also
Uh,
just you're not complicated or high maintenance for people bringing you in to do shows. You
yeah, I, I'm pretty easy to get a hold of if you can find me. I mean, when John was putting the show together, we talked over the couple of years about, oh, I want to do this and I'm going to do that. And change this to something different. Do you want to come in and do this? And I go, yeah, okay, that sounds fun. I mean, that's how Mystery Science started. It's like, hey, do you want to come over and hold these puppets up? Yeah, okay, that sounds fun.
Now we're gonna add layers of drama as the years go.
Yeah.
Do you
Well,
want
I
to do you
did.
want do you want to go back to middle school? Do you want
Yeah. When the opportunity presented itself again to go, hey, we're doing Mystery Science Theater again. Do you want to come in? No, not really. That does not sound fun.
lessons learned?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
I don't.
I think as you get older, you find the situations that are most comfortable, and you can identify the ones that will not be comfortable.
Yeah, hopefully you learn that. But I try to be open to stuff. But there's some things that you know aren't going
Sometimes
to.
life's too short.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, that's not going to happen the way you think it's going to happen. And I think I'll say maybe pass. But then other times I go like, I don't know what's going to happen with this project that John's doing, and it's like, okay, we don't know what we're doing. We're making it up as we go along. We might be making mistakes or whatever, but it's fun. Uh, the overriding rule on this one was whenever anyone's not having fun, we don't have to do it anymore. So, no
It's a
pressure.
good position to try and position yourself in as time
If
goes
you,
by.
yeah, if you can, and then you get some success, and then everyone has it figured out, and then they make it hard again.
Yeah.
Not that that's going to happen, but
No,
I've seen it.
or it has happened. I mean, that's all. We're just speaking in hypotheticals about all of this.
Yeah, yeah. It's so I don't know. You know, something could come up in the next week and it change direction, but
You do seem exceptionally relaxed. You also look like you should be teaching a Zoom art history course right now. It is over the years been a delight to just hang with you or find ourselves in weird shows and conventions and I have always said when bringing people out to do stuff at conventions with or do shows with or do anything with that it's great to have people that are just there to have fun and are a joy to do something creative with because they come to play
mhm.
and they're low maintenance in that as well. And you have always been someone that is reliably fun and funny that I can have no concerns with when involving you in something that you will deliver everything and more.
Eventually. But if I'm out to dinner with Terry Jones, might be a different situation.
Listen, there was a lot of phone calls that night. Some of them unanswered. I don't remember the unanswered ones. Maybe I do. I know there was a
Uh,
lot, but I know that was a unique situation in so many ways.
we're talking about when Terry Jones was at Dragon Con. We went out to dinner before a fairly critical show or show appearance.
The main show of the weekend,
Yeah,
of
the
which there
clock.
were numerous performers and moving parts.
Yeah, so we went out and Terry said, "Let me order wine," and that could have been the last you heard of us.
And I
Uh,
had you there as the adult in the room to
Big mistake. Big mistake.
to manage the situation. It was you and Scott Adsit were both there at this dinner, if I remember correctly.
That's right. Howard Johnson, who was kind of shepherding Terry around.
Terry
Uh,
was the big finale of this show. So the idea was that there would be flexibility for him to go off and have a lovely dinner, and that fine. He didn't need to be sitting backstage. Certainly not at that point for other reasons that we found out over the course of that weekend, that it was best to not put any expectations or any undue pressure on the situation. So the show was going on throughout the evening. That was the big finale. It was all planned around that. We were burning through acts throughout that evening, and no one had shown up, and there was very little communication on it. So the only person I could rely on was Old Faithful Trace, who would answer his phone and try desperately to navigate his own Python sketch in that moment.
Terry's ordering another bottle. I don't know if we're going to make it.
What are your options? Can you do?
Yeah. Vamp.
And we
But
did.
that
I mean, there's footage of me running out, telling Paul Saborin, yeah, just vamp, just do something, do another number.
that was a pretty amazing weekend, though, to get to hang out with Terry and um, read one of his sketches on stage, then have it direct us was pretty cool.
There was a lot of moments like that over the years at those
Yeah.
conventions, which could be incredibly stressful, but it's those moments that made that stress worth it.
Well, and all those guys are like you described, that whole crew that you bring in, everyone pretty and let's have fun.
Yeah, I mean it's nice to build up a troop of just nice folks to hang out and do fun creative things with. That
Yeah.
that should be the goal, right?
Yeah. Just to have fun.
Just to find the nice fun folks to do fun things with.
It's always been,
Even if you're on a trapeze hundreds of feet in the air,
hey, next year when I have upper body strength,
you're gonna
I'll
you're
be
gonna
catch,
get you're gonna make that flip.
I'm going to catch Jeff. Yeah.
That's his dream. That's his dream.
Yeah.
That's all he
Well,
wanted
and
from it.
we learned how to shake hands with a trapeze artist. You grab like this when you're shaking their hands. You grab them like you would if they're flying.
I'm just imagining this as like a shake hands with danger kind of thing. Shake hands with a trapeze artist. That sounds like an old country saying, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, you never shake hands with a trapeze artist.
Yeah.
That's what my grandma said from the old country. Never shake hands with a trapeze artist.
It's an ancient skill. It's an old circus skill. It's amazing.
Well,
But
I think there's still a show to be. Maybe it's you and Frank going around trying all these different things. One week you're trapeze artist, the next week you're lion taming, the next week you're deep sea diving.
you can get Frank up on a trapeze.
I think we
That
can
would
get
be
Frank up on the trapeze. I don't know if he'd swing
that,
on the trapeze, but I think we can get him up there.
if we got
We'll
up
we'll
there.
tell him he has a 5 minute set.
Yeah.
And there's an audience.
If we got up there, he could get up there.
Frank would do all the things, and then he'd have a lot of new material when he got back down.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's what it's all
You might
about,
like
right?
that.
That's all life is, right? It's just developing material.
I guess so. I guess.
Yeah.
Or in my case, just finding stuff to stick to other stuff.
Well,
Gluing
I
things
know what
together.
your entire life is just kit bashing. You've kit bashed the
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, everything we do is found object.
And
Even
there's your autobiography title: A Kit Bashed Life.
a kit bashed life by Nerny Schmutz.
Well, that's the pen name that you want to write under. Sure. This has been a joy. This has gone longer longer than maybe some people would like. I don't know, but this was
Haven't looked at
fun
the
for
clock.
us. I hope.
Yes, yes, and people can tune in or out whenever they want.
Yeah, or play back at double speed. I don't care. It's
Hmm.
if they're listening to this part, they're at the end anyway, so you made it.
That's right.
Congratulations.
That's right. Unless you skipped ahead, in which case you saved yourself an evening.
Well, then there's no context for any of these statements. So right now, I know that, and I've reminded people during the interludes when you stepped away that they can still go to Dumb Industries and get all the Mads Are Back
I assume so.
library
Yes.
that's available.
Yeah.
I know you got some stuff on the YouTube channel if they want to just try some stuff out and see some of the shorts and that you've done. You still have silly rhymes for belligerent children.
Yes.
How many copies are left? How many boxes are we down to?
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12,
Is it
13,
just an
14.
architectural feature still?
Well, I moved Silly Rhymes for Belligerent Children. That's what it looks like.
With art by
It
Len
could be
Peralta.
it could be yours. Go to tracebelue.com and let me know if you want it signed. I'll sign it. There's still a few left. Still a few. Yes, Len Peralta did the art.
You will be signing them all as Michael Palin, though. People
I
should
will be
aware.
signing them as anybody you want.
As
Uh,
as long as
but
the payment comes through.
quite a few left of those. But yeah, there's that. I don't have any merch really to think of. But you can go to Frank's website and get his book. You can.
He's on so many books now. He's got an
got
entire shelf.
He's got an audiobook. He just released an audiobook of
The sleep apnea book, right?
I think so. Yeah,
Dark apnea,
yeah.
I think is the name of the book, right?
Dark
Yeah.
apnea. Yeah,
Is
so,
a sleep apnea afflicted a superhero, I think is the
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Uh,
So yeah,
so basically, if you want to support Trace, go buy Frank's books.
yeah. I don't need support. I don't need any money. I just need your attention for a moment, and that's it.
I don't even think you need that. I think
I
you're
kinda
probably good
don't.
even without that.
Yeah, I kind of don't. So do me a favor. Mind your own business. Stay at home. Read a book. Pet a cat.
And send him the whiskers.
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, no! Don't even open that door because you know what'll happen.
No
You
one
know what'll
knows where you
happen.
live. There's nothing coming to you.
I hopefully the but
But you know
uh,
what? Maybe this be an inspiration. Everyone start their own whisker ear projects.
I've seen a lot of people post online of their whisker collections, and if you have a cat, you collect them. You find them, and you go, "Oh, how special a whisker!" And then you have like hundreds of them, and you go, "It's not that special, but I'm kind of into collecting them now."
Yeah, they're like cat feathers.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's like a paintbrush that could be made with
And
whiskers,
surely, right?
um,
Or some kind of writing utensil.
something. Put them back on the cat in different places.
I don't think he'd appreciate that.
No, probably not. But that's if you want a place to hold your whiskers, put them in your ear.
I can think of no better sentiment to close out this episode. Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Trace,
Thank you,
for
Ken.
doing this. It's always
Yeah,
a
this
joy.
is fun.
We should do this probably just as often. And to anyone who enjoyed this, please consider becoming a patron by going to patreon.com/Ken Plume. That'd be swell. Even $1 a month gets you access to all of my special exclusive features, including pieces with Trace. We did some of the quiz shows are up there as part of the Patreon. That Mystery Science Theater Blast from the Past from the Planet Hollywood. You can go listen to that if you want some context for that.
That's where I'm going. Now, you've got all the interviews you've ever done up on your Patreon?
I'm putting some ones that never got released up there.
Oh.
There's a Rene Aubergenois piece that's available
cool.
now that's up there. There's a few more of those that are coming out from the archives. representing some older stuff on there. So there's a ton of stuff that
How
people
many
can
people have
find.
you spoken to? Like hundreds. Like it's got to be hundreds.
I think there's over 500 episodes of just a bit of a chat, and that's not counting all the print interviews that I did before that. So,
And these books that I was just reading, the life of George Lucas and the other one on Jim Henson, use a lot of your material, don't they?
well, I mean, yeah, I'm one of the research materials
Mm.
that Brian J. Jones incorporated into some of that. So, very
So
kind
is that
acknowledgments.
stuff part of the whole archive?
Yes, they can find like the Gary Kurtz interview that was referenced, the Frank Oz interview is up there. A lot of the Muppet performers, Jerry Nelson, uh, Dave Goles, Steve Whitmire. Yeah, all those are up there and accessible by folks right now. So that'd be swell
Cool.
to
That's cool.
have people support in that way if they enjoy the things. If you don't, then move on. It's
We'll
okay.
never know.
I understand. So I'm not hurt at all by it. I wouldn't know if you were thinking about it anyway. If you're not there, you don't show up. I just hmm. Okay. Well, thanks everyone. It's been real swell. So bye everybody.
Goodbye. Thank you. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you, Trace, and bye.